Greetings, everyone, and welcome to an episode that actually happened.
It did?
Yes.
Oh.
Because you're listening to it now. Yes, it's another episode of Monster Party.
Monster Party! It's Monster Party, and it's new. It's exciting with the new year.
It's a brand new world, and things are really gonna go well from this point on.
Yes. 2018.
This is great.
So,
Who are you, sir?
I think we should introduce ourselves.
Please.
I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
And for this episode of the new year,
It's big.
it is big.
2018.
It's a good one. And
To start off the year fresh.
yeah, we're just
Punky.
punching with both fists
Yep.
and occasionally a foot. Yeah. For this episode, the topic is films that never were.
Films that never were. Never happened.
Maybe were intended to be made, went into production, but for whatever reason didn't happen.
They got very close to being made,
yeah.
but then something happened,
Something
or a lot of things happened,
went wrong.
and it just tanked the whole process. And we're also going to talk about films that were never made that
We just wish were made,
We wish
yeah.
were made,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll have a little fun with that too. But for this episode, man, do we have
The perfect guest.
guest?
Oh,
my
waiting for
God.
this guy.
Old friend of mine, and this guy, oh my God, the amount of things that this man can do. He is a director, a producer, an editor, a writer, an actor.
An actor?
An actor.
Really?
Yes. And he's a sumo wrestler, a contortionist.
That's right.
He can do anything.
A part-time cook.
Yes. He's a sous chef, unparalleled.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. Matt, who is our guest?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jon Schnepp.
John Schnepp!
What's going on? What's up?
Oh my gosh.
We're so happy to have
Some
you
of those
here.
things I actually don't do, but I'm not. I'll let you guys figure that
What, the
Work it
out.
sous
out.
chef?
Go.
The sous chef
I
thing?
would never say that. I don't know.
Go hit the internet and work this out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Google it.
Yes.
John, we are thrilled to have you.
Yes.
I'm so excited to have you.
And
Well, thanks, man.
why he is the perfect guest
Yes.
for so many reasons, just for his credits. But John made a film, an amazing, wonderful film.
Unbelievable.
It filled me with such joy. And it's just
fascinating.
It really is fascinating. And it is the exclamation point on this topic. And the film is called The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened?
The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened?
This is the
John, you
19th
produced, you directed this, you wrote it, you interviewed everybody.
Oh my gosh.
You're a great interviewer, by the
Oh,
way, which
thanks.
I had never seen you do that before, and it was super fun. And all the elements in this movie that you add in bringing the things that we never got to see to life
And this was
were
the- this is
just
the-
extraordinary.
Well,
the ill-fated Tim Burton
tell us about
Superman
this
movie,
because
right?
there are a lot of people out there, listeners, who don't know anything about
yeah,
this.
give us a
John.
little
Sure.
backdrop.
Well, let me preface by saying it's like Holly Payne, my fiance, and I really worked on this film together. So I
That's
want to
right.
give her. I love giving her co-credit for,
She's
for
great.
making the
We
film
love
with
Holly.
me. We had a very small crew. It was myself, Holly, Marie Hamora, who edited the film with me and did the bulk of the editing, and literally Chris Graybill, who did a ton of the compositing. I composited some shots. I composited the opening title sequence. But it
really
was like
cool
there was a
graphics.
lot of but it was like very smooth. It's like when you make a film like this and you have a micro budget, it's like you're really it's a like two and a half years of like a small crew of people really busting their ass on it. So, but for
There's
myself,
a lot of stuff in that film, a lot of effects and things that you really put everything on the screen.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was it literally became one of those like labor of love things. You always hear about it, and you're like, "Oh, are we doing this?" I guess we're doing it.
Yeah.
Because we're all broke and stuff. So it's like, but I mean, the idea came to me in 2012, the end of 2012. I had been working on, I'd been directing Metalocalypse and producing Metalocalypse, this death metal cartoon series for
Fantastic.
Adult Swim.
Love it.
And then I was like moved on and started doing this I did a Kickstarter for this animated short, like kind of I wanted to do like a heavy metal kind of Tales from the Crypt kind of thing.
Right.
Great.
So with different art styles, but R-rated, very extreme. for this Grimm Fairy Tales thing. So we raised money on Kickstarter to make this pilot. We made the pilot, but unfortunately at that time in 2013, no one wanted to make an R-rated or this was 2012. No one really wanted to make an R-rated cartoon series.
Yeah,
they were like, well,
it's R-rated, man. You know, you're limiting yourself. You can't get the kids in there.
I don't know if that's
now we realize we don't need them.
I don't know. I don't know if it's available to even resell now. Now that we're in like 2018, I'm like, maybe I should take that back out and see what happens.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
So done that, and then I kind of wanted to take a break from doing cartoons, and I had just myself over the last couple of years had been collecting all of these images, concept art that was available online from different artists who had worked on this Tim Burton Superman movie, because as a comic book fan, I was very disappointed with Superman Returns.
Right.
Oh, really? You didn't like it?
The parts that I remember that I didn't fall asleep in the theater, being violently awoken, I did not found to be boring. So it just didn't hit it for me. And I know it was like sort of like this super homage. It was like the John Williams music.
Yeah.
It should have
No,
worked,
I'd like that.
and it didn't.
It didn't work for you.
It didn't work for me because I felt like I saw those films, and that was in the 70s, and I saw Superman and
Let's
do
Superman the
something
movie,
with
Christopher
Superman
Reeve
2, and then
yeah.
the other two. Let's not talk about.
No,
them.
we
So it was
don't.
sort of like
Right.
I felt like let's do something new, and we did get something new later, Man of Steel, which I felt was like way new, and maybe in somewhat great ways, some not good ways, but at least it was new, and they were doing something different.
Right.
So that was my feeling about it, and also there was not any action in the film. There was like a lot of missed opportunities.
Well, see,
So,
I agree. Yeah.
like I felt, honestly, it was just like one of the most boring superhero films. If I don't care if it was called Superman, it was like Orange Man Returns. It'd be like, man, Orange Man was boring. He didn't fight anybody. He got kicked off a mountain. It's like a lot of crying involved, floating around, staring at his Orange Man son. Weird stuff going on. So,
well, and even as Clark Kent, there's no story. And even as Clark Kent, all he's doing is mooning over Lois when Lex Luthor's getting away with all this stuff. Dude, at least be a reporter.
Right.
Chase the story. I mean, something.
There was a lot of like weird setup with no payoff. Like there's all this stuff happening with the Daily Planet that it's the orb is falling.
Yeah.
Then he caught the orb. He lifted a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That was like the whole movie was him lifting,
lift man.
lift that car, lift the orb, lift the rock made of kryptonite at the end. How is he doing that?
Yeah.
Lifted from the other Superman
Lift
movies.
the plane. Yes, it was lifted. So, lots of things were lifted. Actually, even from J.J. Abrams' script, which that entire scene was lifted. The plane stuff. So, so my interest in this Superman film that Tim Burton was going to make was piqued by the concept art, and because it was very much like in the vein of science fiction and heavy metal, they had all these like different concept designers doing like really cool, weird versions of Krypton.
Really notable people.
Yeah.
Too, notable artists.
Yeah,
coming in.
Sylvain Desprez, a whole bunch of different people that you're like, wow, I mean, they've worked on all these other films. And I always felt like when you see one drawing, there's like 40 more that you didn't see.
Right.
And if you're in the business, that's how it works. It's not just like somebody is, here's this one weird abstract drawing, a buy.
Yeah.
Like, I want
Right.
to see all the other
Yeah.
things to do. And there was enough people who were like, well, I also worked on it. You're like, how many people worked on this thing? How much actually got made? And of course, that Nicolas Cage picture of him with the half eye and the long hair.
But see, this is what a lot of people don't know. It's like you throw out the Tim Burton thing, and people say, "Oh, Tim Burton was going to do a Superman thing." Yes, but it wasn't. It was Tim Burton who had given us Batman from '89, but also the casting of Nicolas Cage as Superman.
Yeah.
And you think about that, and it's like Nicolas Cage doesn't fit into what I think is a Christopher Reeve mold, or
No.
And that was on purpose.
Right,
but
it was
you see
on
that-
purpose.
Well, okay, on purpose, and we can get into that. But I mean, to me, when I heard about this, I went, I don't know if this is going to work.
Well, I think a lot of people were trepidatious about it. I mean, you find out years later that it was very much the same thing with Michael Keaton, when it was like, there was a lot of people, especially fanboys, who were like, "That's not my Batman.
That's me,
Mr. Mom." It was like, which I mean, you can understand that because you have this idea of what Batman is supposed to look like.
He did the best job he could. That's my view of
Yeah, see, I'm with you, Matt, because look, John,
He was better than I expected him to be.
Right.
I remember hearing Tim Burton give an interview, and he goes, "Well, we looked at said a lot of square jaw actors, but Michael Keaton just had that certain something. And I'm like, no, I don't think you did as thorough a job as you say you did.
He might have said they looked at people, but I think they always wanted to have Michael Keaton because Michael Keaton was like, to me, he worked like, because I wanted to believe that there was somebody who would put on a bat suit.
Yeah.
Like, and this is coming from somebody who loved The Dark Knight Returns, who's already a like feverish comic book fan. I loved Batman.
Sure.
And it was kind of cool to see somebody do a take on it. Now, when that movie first came out, the things that I didn't like was like the Prince music.
No,
I didn't like. There were certain things that were just jarring.
Sure.
You know, there was like, this is a weird. Like Danny Elfman's music works. Why is this in? Why is the Joker in it so much? Is
Why
it
is
a
the
Batman
Joker-
movie or the Joker movie?
Why is the Joker shooting down the bat plane with a gun?
Okay, yeah. You see,
with a very long joke gun?
Yeah.
So there was like elements of the old Batman '60s. These leftovers that didn't actually make it in until we got even a weirder version, which was Batman Returns, which I like. I like
more.
both of them.
I like that one more.
I like it more, but it also had the weird penguins. So there's like all of the movies have this. Did you really have to go? We didn't need that corniness part. You got the gothic part, great.
Right.
But then you have Schumacher coming in. They're like, well, put in some of that humor, and you're like. Batman Forever is really a bad film. Like when you watch it again,
it's excruciating.
it's horrible.
It's
I mean,
bad.
people always talk about how bad Batman and Robin sucks. It's like, I dare you to go back and watch. Like, I'm Tommy Lee Jones. It's like, who are you? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then overacting Jim Carrey, like, I'm the Riddler. And I was like, it's a horrible film.
But John, wouldn't you say that a lot of those films, they all those characters, all those villains, they're all over the top, you know, and it kind of set the thing. I think with the Joker, then the Penguin.
Right.
I think they grew in their being more elaborate or just.
Every actor wanted to be. I can't wait to be a weird,
exactly,
a weirdo villain
exactly.
that you could rein people in.
There's no baseline. Like even the first Batman, I think from Burton, I think there's such an artificial quality to it. And what I liked about Donner's Superman is that they set Metropolis. It's really New York.
It's New York.
But it feels real.
Yes.
You know, and you take the fantastic element and put them, you know,
we didn't get that till Christopher Nolan, where he like basically made Batman in a real situation.
Right. So all of Burton stuff is it's just it goes back to Beetlejuice. You know, it's just artificial.
But that's Tim Burton. Tim Burton's kind of style is throughout all of his films. I mean, even Big Eyes. There's a few of those like kind of weird dream sequences in the grocery store. In fact, I feel like Big Eyes needed more of that.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
But for a superhero movie, I don't know if you.
So
should have that.
with myself, I think Michael Keaton really worked as that version of that Batman, and that's why I feel like Nicolas Cage was in the same casting realm as like that. You get a really good actor, somebody who's like, you know, I mean, years later, obviously, when you saw that footage that we were given of Tim talking with Nick, it was like, wow, I mean, they're really kind of on this different playing field where they're talking about like, you know, he's an alien and he's like feels like alone and this, all these kinds of things that weren't really played up in the comic books. They were always there, but they were never like played up as like a source of storytelling where he's like, I don't feel like I belong here, you know?
Yeah, there's little dollops of that when it came to like Alan Moore stories. But
Alan Moore's probably the closest you ever even played in that arena, and that was like for an annual or like here's these two
Grant
issues.
Morrison did the Superman book that was pretty good, but that's way later.
It's later, and I mean, All Star Superman is one of the best Superman books. It's 12 issues. Frank Quietly drew it. It's a great, like here's Superman through the ages, and Grant Morrison is like the perfect historian to take you from 0 to 100, you know, all the way through like beginning and end of Superman.
Right.
But what's interesting though is in this film, I couldn't believe the amount of people that you interviewed. But you tell this really interesting story and interview the producer and how. John Peters was able to get the rights of Superman, which I thought was all owned by Warner Brothers.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, so like, you know, getting interested in even doing a documentary, I'd never made a documentary, and I was sort of like, well, maybe I'll try doing this. And I ended up meeting Steve Johnson, who was one of the special effects guys. I met him at this DeAntword thing that was happening at Meltdown because he had worked on one of their videos. And talked to him about the electrical suit that was on YouTube, and he looked really embarrassed and didn't want to talk about it. So afterwards, Holly and I went out with friends, and I mentioned, I met that guy, and I was, I've been collecting all this artwork for the last like 2 years. I have like a desktop little folder that says like, Superman Lives concept art, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And a friend of mine was like, you should make a documentary, and I was like, I don't make documentaries. And then somebody else was like, like I had just done a really successful Kickstarter. They were like, why don't you raise the money on Kickstarter? I was like, nah, I don't think so. And then that kind of idea floated in my head, and I was like, maybe I should. No one else is going to do this.
Right.
And I really felt, because anybody I talked to about it outside of that night, people were like, nah, who would want to see that? Or that movie would have sucked. But I was like, but how do you know? And we did have the Kevin Smith script that was available, and I read that.
Right.
And there was like an earlier version of the Dan Gilroy script, like a part of it that I had read that was like radically different. And there were like a lot of like really kind of bizarre ideas, like Luthiac, Lexiac, like really literally taken from the Alan Moore, The Man of Tomorrow.
Right.
Where like basically Brainiac takes over Lex Luthor, and they
Yes.
combine in this horrible way.
Wow.
So that was kind of the whether or not it was the concept from these guys who never read comics.
Right.
Most of the people who write movie scripts don't read comics,
Right.
which is the
Certainly
crushing
then.
thing when you find out. You're like, no, even now. Unfortunately, even now, most people are like, nah, I don't really read comics. I'll just do some really quick research now that I'm making $1 million to write the script. Here, I'll thumb through these things and take a couple of ideas. That's really that.
I'm going to thumb through 18 pages.
But
But
kind of
with
generally
pictures.
look at it.
Kevin
yes.
Smith was a comic book fan.
Yes,
he was huge.
Kevin
comic book
Smith
fan.
was the perfect person to write a Superman script, even within the constricts, of the confines of John Peters' decisions that you see him like putting on Kevin.
Right.
You can't do this. You
Right.
can't do
Yeah.
that.
Wait, I
Which
just
he then denies. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, he said, I think he's on
Three
in,
things.
in your documentary. It's hilarious because John Pierce apparently told Kevin
Three
"Yeah,
things.
I don't want Superman to fly. I don't want him to wear a suit, and he has to fight a giant spider.
And you know what? I listening to the interview that you got with him and with Kevin Smith, I totally believe Kevin Smith. Well, why would he lie? It makes absolutely no
He
sense
just
whatsoever.
doesn't-
And also for John Peters,
Right.
I get that guy. I mean, he's like big idea guy. Hey, and for him to say, "Oh, I never said that." Well, you don't remember. You don't remember, dude. That's what I think. And
Who
of course,
else
maybe it's so
says
embarrassing.
things like that?
But listen. No, John Peters. It really pisses me off. He's a very successful producer. He's had all kinds of success. So he's like,
did my hair.
Okay, so I'm gonna sit on. I got Superman. I got the rights. So you know what? I'm gonna make it the way I want to be. That flying stuff. Oh, that's stupid. Oh, I don't.
I think he was coming from like a different sensibility. I don't know.
Wrong sensibility.
I don't know if
Superman not fly. That's ridiculous.
I don't know if he was coming
All right.
from that kind of sensibility, that anger sensibility. I think he was coming. I think he was coming more
Welcome to
from
Monster Party.
I think he was coming more from like he wanted to do something different
Right.
with that character, and he felt like, look, we, and when he says we, it's more that Tim spun this kind of like, oh, we got this all black suit, and it's hip now, and kids are shaving the bat symbol in the side of their hair, and all that kind of stuff. So that really affected him as a executive producer, a person who would come in. Here's the 5 things I want you to do, and now go write your script. And that's kind of how he would. These producers of the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and then the years later 80s, so the bigger, I'm on a ton of drugs, and I'm making Top Gun, I'm doing all this stuff. They would be like, look, you got to have this car, you got to have this set piece, you have to have this
Explosion
giant
right
fan,
here.
you have to have these 2 actors, there has to be this sex scene on a train. Now go, so you could literally write whatever the hell you wanted,
As long as you
have
could
those
make whatever the
basic-
fuck you wanted, as long as those things were in it. They were like, they could checklist their stuff and be like, that's how I'm going to sell it overseas. So they had this
Right.
producing back then was a lot different than it is now. So it's definitely not committee style. Back then it was like that one person, and they were fighting all these other producers. So it was like
Right. But
that's where I feel where he was like, I want Superman to connect with people from. Then his whole thing was like coming from the streets and things like that. He wanted kids to think Superman was cool again, and he
Right,
felt
right.
even like the more radical ideas, which aren't even in my film, they're like in some of the supplemental
We'll talk later.
Blu-ray stuff, where you see Superman with an actual Batman mask with an S on the forehead. You're like, what? You're like, and that's real. It's like, yes, that's real. And that was
Wow.
like, they were at the very end. They were like, well, look, we understand why you want Nicolas Cage because he's a great actor, but he doesn't look like Superman. Can he wear a mask like Batman? And they were literally, that's where they were going. They were like, Superman was going to have a Batman cowl. And I was like, wow.
But for the record, now you're watching this cross-cutting between Kevin Smith and John Peters.
Yeah.
Peters is denying two of the three things that Kevin Smith is saying.
And he does not deny the spider.
But he does not deny the spider.
That's one of my favorite edits, and it's like me and Marie were like co-editing this thing, and I'm pretty sure Marie was the one who put together that like bunk 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 bunk. And what about that spider? No, that was my idea. It was like but like, I can't remember if I added that or I'm gonna have to ask her. But it was a lot of fun because we both have a very different editing style, and a lot of the weirder scenes that are in the documentary are me, like the water drinking. There's a lot of weird.
I do love that. I do really
the
love
Tim
that.
Burton with the animation where he's doing the wig
I like
stuff.
that too.
There's a lot of little weirdo flourishes that when after you see footage a million times, you're like, oh, I'm gonna add that. Holly as well. She like went through every single thing and like helps organize a lot of the scenes as well as Marie. So really like it's like that was like a 3-person job, like editing that the 38 or so hours of footage. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
And I do have to say that I'm not against the spider idea because Peters would introduce these ideas, and then I'd see the concept art, and I'd go, "Wait a minute." You guys really kind of brought that to life in a really unique, interesting way. Like the costume, for example, when you have...
It's like a rejuvenation costume when he...
Yeah, it's like an artificial
killed.
Intelligence, this suit called K.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And that's how he flies.
Yes.
And it's like a living being that merges with him,
like
his
that.
companion.
And that it was with
him
as like a little teddy bear when he's like in that egg, when he's a kid growing, and then when he lands, it transforms and just becomes his buddy.
Yeah.
And then years
really
later,
cool.
it's like his co-pilot or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting about watching the documentary is that as you're watching it, you go, man, I think I really want to watch that movie. Oh, not now.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm back now.
And
then,
there's-
back and forth, back and forth.
Then there's the polar bears guarding the Fortress of Solitude. It's like, and I love that in the scene where it's like it's called a Fortress of Solitude.
I
So
know.
Superman wouldn't have an army of guards around this fortress because it's a Fortress of Solitude.
Well, it's funny because Kevin Smith. I mean, I may not like everything that he's done, but when you interviewed him and he's going through this logically, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Kevin, you're right, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
And there's ninjas. He's going to fight, fight some ninjas.
And look, as a young when he was hired to write this, so he was one of a bunch of writers,
in his 20s.
But he was young, he was hungry, and he was in his 20s. So he does this bang up job. He throws
Well, it's
all
like a
this
dream gig,
based
right?
on,
I mean,
based on what John Peters wanted. Okay, he's got to fight a spider. I don't want him to fly. And Kevin's like, okay, I'll put this in. And he basically gave John Peters everything he wanted. However, there was something about it that John didn't like, and I think he called it like an amateur.
Well, that's a yes and no. I mean, I think what the truth of it is when they finally got Tim Burton on, Tim wanted to go a different way. He didn't want to use Kevin's script, and that's really the truth of it. It's like,
right.
So see, it's
And
not
that makes
fair.
sense.
But then it's not fair for John to call Kevin Smith, "Oh, it's an amateur writer." It's
Well-
like, he could have said once we brought Tim in, really he wanted to go in a different direction.
But I think what you're responding to is the mutual animosity of like people who've been making fun of each other for years. So I feel like that was John Peters like being able to well, he's been making fun of me for years, so this is how I really feel about it.
Right.
It's like that's my read on it. Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But I feel like what the real truth of it, at least from what I gather, is that. And this happens all the time in Hollywood. Somebody's like, man, I developed this idea. I sold it to Bronco Media, whatever the hell they're called. And then they got this cool director, and he threw my script away and got this other dude that he works with all the time. And now I don't even know if my name is going to be on the script. The thing that I created and wrote is now being rewritten by somebody else. So that's Hollywood. Welcome to Hollywood.
Yeah,
so that's
textbook,
just normal. So that's what was going on. Tim was hiring the guy that he had just worked with.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, I'm going to have this guy rewrite it, and I have different ideas as to how I want to approach it. They kept the skeleton.
and they kept the spider.
They kept the skeleton of the idea of what you would say is the spine of the idea of the Superman Lives property. It wasn't the Superman Reborn one, which was like a total disaster. Like there's a lot of development that had been going on with Superman for years and years and years. Like, I mean, Superman Returns was like, it was 17 years without a Superman movie. Wow. And from the Quest for Peace.
2006, right?
Yeah,
in 1987 was Quest for Peace. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And deservedly so. Quest for Peace was horrible.
Yeah.
But, it was like 17 years. Really?
Look, the reason behind how that was made is, I mean, it's very frustrating. You know, it's like, hey, let's throw this together as cheaply as we can. And Fareed wanted to make a statement
too, right?
He wanted to make a statement, and
they were like, and then while they're shooting, we're going to cut half the budget, and it was like, just all the stuff that you hate to hear. And then, like, I mean, the greatest thing about the Quest for Peace Peace is the footage that's on YouTube of like, just look up Superman 4 Quest for Peace Bizarro. There is a 15-minute sequence where there was Bizarro. Remember, like the Nuclear Man, before Nuclear Man, they had Bizarro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where
I didn't know.
where Christopher Reeve is fighting this Bizarro character who looks like a Las Vegas reject. He's got like silver hair. Like,
my gosh.
it's crazy.
Oh my
And so was he?
It's unbelievable.
Was
You
he
gotta
the
see it.
original concept instead of Nuclear Man?
No. He was in the movie.
Oh, my
He was
God.
like made from a strand of hair, but it didn't work right. So he was like a badly cloned
my
Superman.
gosh.
So they're fighting and pushing cars together. It's like, do yourself
Wow,
a favor.
okay.
Look this up. You won't regret it.
it still
Well, you
sounds
will
like-
regret seeing
So
it, but it's really
it's
fun.
even goofier than Nuclear Man.
Oh, it's so horrible.
wow.
If that
okay.
were in Superman 4, it sounds like it still would have made it a more interesting movie.
That's how I look at it. You know, all the stuff that you can find that you could scrape off the bottom of the barrel of YouTube that exists from Superman 4, and there's literally about
wow.
40
Now you
minutes.
gotta look.
There's scenes with Marilyn Hemingway where you're like, why did they even shoot that?
Yeah.
But I wish
What
it
if-
was in the movie because it would have made it like The Room, where you're
I
like,
was just
I
about to
can't
say.
stop watching this
Yeah.
garbage. You know?
Have we learned nothing from Tommy Wiseau?
I know. Can't we all just? It's all about love. Superman 4: Quest for Peace. You know?
Well, someone's
Wow.
going to make a Blu-ray with all these, or a director's cut, or a
yeah.
producer's cut, or something.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, good luck. Yeah. It's like,
Oh, hi, Lex.
yeah.
All right. So
Right.
so getting back to this, so Tim Burton he decides I don't want to use Kevin's script.
Right.
I want to use my writer that I've been using. Okay.
Yeah.
So then they take another crack at it.
Yeah. And that doesn't really work too well. I mean, he works on it for about 3 months, and then they get another writer. Dan Gilroy comes in. So Wesley Strick was the second writer, and he worked on it for about 3.5 months. He did like a first draft,
Right.
And it was literally like a comedy. Like if you, it might
Now that I didn't know.
It might be online, but it's like it literally it opens with Superman kind of he sees a homeless person digging through the trash, and he uses his laser vision to like heat up a steak that this homeless person was taking out of the trash.
Wow.
Like very weird. Like, oh, thanks, Superman. Like, what are you doing, dude?
Thank you for heating up the food that will eventually kill me.
That I got from the garbage. So it's like there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of really weird like kind of bad jokes in there. So it was like I think and Wesley will admit he's like I didn't read comics. I wasn't coming. So he was coming
Right.
from it from a very outsider perspective.
Yeah.
And like I've got to make this entertaining. It's this crazy dude who can fly and has laser eyes. You
Yeah.
know, here's some funny stuff that happened. So I think that's kind of what was going on. That didn't really work out. So then they brought in Dan Gilroy, and Dan actually came at it with a way different attitude, but was wanting to bring in more of a thing about the relationship. So,
Right.
Which I think once again, when you talk about this idea for Superman Lives, it was kind of like all over the place, all over the map. Sort of like they definitely had Lex Luthor, they had this villain Brainiac, they had Superman and Lois. Kind of, I think at one point they were married, then they were like just living together, but they were going to get pregnant. Or whether I don't know if that was ever going to stick around, but there was like they were playing with the idea of this character being like alone and feeling like alone, but like
Right.
feeling like he is, the protector of Earth because no one else is going to do it. So it was like it was a cool.
That is cool. I like that.
look
Yeah.
at the character Superman that you see some of those echoes happen in Man of Steel and BVS, just done more by a bro jock director who does like surfacey kind of. I kind of understand it in a weird kind of surface way where like,
Right.
well, dude, I wanted to love BVS, but
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you get your hits and misses. Well, you got that one part right, but these 48 parts didn't
Right.
really
Yeah,
work
yeah,
out.
yeah.
So, I mean, with Superman Lives, the process of putting that together, we didn't get John Peters until literally 3 months before we premiered the film.
You're kidding.
I have an edit of the entire movie without John Peters.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was like he was like an invisible creature, like the monster. He was like he was the id from Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
He was literally like, it's attacking again.
Well,
it was like
John,
this creature.
One of the things for me
That
that
comes
really,
from John Peters.
No, I mean, one of the things that I think is so amazing about this film that you made is that you got John Peters, and it's a great lengthy interview.
How did that
you have-
happen?
And then, you have that. You have Tim Burton. You have so many people that were part of this.
Well,
Also
that's what it
very,
took-
very candid
Yeah.
conversations.
It took
with
so
them.
long because, like I said, doing documentaries is so radically different than like, hey, I wrote this script and then there's a company producing it. Let's cast those actors. Let's have that. Let's figure out who's going to play the role. It's like doesn't work that way. You have to talk to people about the project that they were embarrassed they were ever involved in. And they're like, why do you want to talk about that thing? That didn't get made. Every single person that we talked to did not want to talk about the movie.
Yeah.
And every single person, except for like 3 people, said no, straight up. Most of the people, and rightfully so, were like, "Well, have you talked to Tim Burton yet?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Well, I don't want to talk about it until Tim is doing it." So it'd be like going to your. Before you're talking to your boss, it'd be like, let me talk to you about this thing that, everyone's embarrassed about. Well, did you get did he say okay? The guy who hires me every year?
Right.
No, he didn't. Well, then no.
Right.
And so it's like, and I can understand that, but boy, was it difficult to get Tim Burton. I mean, literally, we're like a few concept artists. The first year was like literally like, I was like, I don't know. And people always like, well, why did you put yourself in the film? Like my wagging face. Yes, I agree with you. And cutting away to me and like having my questions because I didn't know how I was going to make this film. I didn't know how. I was like, I'm going to have to string this together with like
somehow.
Well,
yeah,
John,
Yeah, right.
I will say this about you putting yourself in the film. When the film starts, what's really great is, you make this whole explanation about, people at Comic-Con and nerds and people like us who are just how times have changed for us and how these movies that we know and love,
Now we take
these
for
are like,
granted,
these are like the big films and everyone wants to pay attention about it. And when you introduce this film and you ask these questions, I think of myself when I watched it, I was like, I'm like you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm an inquisitive guy. I'm like, I've heard about this film. I have these questions too.
Because
so
it also was 1998 when we were trying to make this.
and
thing,
so
right?
I liked seeing you in there, following your journey, and I thought of myself as you.
Yeah, it's a nice
good.
preamble
Yeah.
to the whole experience.
That's how it was. It was intended to work that way. I just didn't. Originally, it was like that opening sequence was that was like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it was like because it was like it was like, oh, I'm going to talk to people like what their expectations of this movie was going to be,
Right.
and then I'm going to talk to all the different comic book writers and artists and like their interpretations of Superman. Then we're going to talk to the people who were involved in making the film. I didn't know how many people we were going to actually interview from Superman Lives, and ultimately once. We got in contact. Thank you to whoever the mole is who lives in Canada who hooked me up with the production assistant who was working on Big Eyes. Thank you, is what I could say, is because there was no way I would have ever gotten in contact with Tim Burton if it wasn't for that one person. So,
Right.
So let me ask you. So was Tim Burton the doorway that opened up the rest of this?
I've said this before. Tim Burton was the Pokemon orb that once I got to get them all. Once I got him, it opened up, and all the other people came forward. Yeah, it was like literally because they felt okay about it. Well, if you interviewed Tim, I was like, no, he had a great time, and I have to thank Derek Fry, who Holly and I went out to London when we were dead broke. We had run out of money because it had taken so long to finally get Tim Burton. Like we literally got Kevin Smith and Tim Burton in the month that we were dead broke and had no money. We were like one camera and then 2 shuffly cameras.
Yeah,
like it was literally like we had to borrow money to fly out to go to London and like stay at an Airbnb, and it was really like a horrible situation, but we made the best of it. And we met with Tim. We had to fly out to London just to meet Tim because he was like, I'm not going to do the interview. I want to meet you.
Okay.
So I'll meet you, but I'm in the middle of doing productions to come out to London. So we were like, well, hopefully we're not jerks or anything. So we met with him, and then he was like, okay, I'll do the interview. So then we came back 2 days later and did the interview. But he was really nice. I think he just wanted to make sure we weren't going to be
weren't
like
nuts,
having a laugh, or like we're going to make like some adult swim, like who is this motherfucker?
Or like you wouldn't be yelling at him. See, that's why
Right.
I could never interview him.
That's true.
Well, no, I mean, it's like we just ended up talking about, Holly was talking about, the house, Arthur Rackham's house that he lived in. So she was hyper aware of that. So they had a great conversation. He had all this Hammer artwork that I was like talking about Vincent Price. Yeah. So, I mean, literally, it was like we just nerded out with him for about 40 minutes. And then we didn't even do any. I was like, hey, do you want to do like a couple softball questions? He's like, no. But we'll just do it. So I think he felt comfortable. He was like, you guys are nerds like me. I feel that's where when people are like, well, you really got Tim to open up when you were talking with him. Like, we haven't seen interviews like that. It's like because I'm just talking to like
just a nerd,
we're mutual nerds, just talking about something. Obviously, a very painful situation for him. But I've as a director, I've done 3 pilots that no one will ever see. I've worked for over 2 years. If you add those 3 pilots up, 2 years of my life wasted. And it's like for different reasons. One was like a president of a company swapped out with another president so they don't want. So, I mean, all the things you always hear about, I got to experience in very different and personal ways, which only adds to, the story that, while I'm talking to him, I'm like, no, believe me, I get it. When you like work on something for 2 years, then it just disappears. So.
And wouldn't you even argue, too, that by you doing this documentary and really getting into the weeds about all the details of what happened with this movie, in a way, you're kind of justifying justifying all that hard work and pain because this is an interesting story.
Yes.
This is an epic adventure.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, I mean, it was an epic adventure for us. Like as we were putting the film together, it was like, we were submitting it to film festivals, and of course getting no's because it was like that's not really working yet, and we're trying to figure it out. And we're like, as we're honing it down, and we finally had a cut. Like I said, the one without Dan Gilroy and without John Peters. Wow. So those were like even though we had Tim Burton, we had almost everybody, but we were still missing like the final writer and the producer. So, but it did work. I mean, we have a cut of that works. But then we got Dan Gilroy, and then literally, we just kept hammering away at trying to find a contact for John Peters, and he's a really hard person to get in contact with. He's not in the biz anymore. All of the different production companies of his are all shuttered. Yeah. All the people are. And so literally, I was able to get like this side person that then I talked to and got them cracking up laughing or something. He was like, all right, I'll talk to him for you. And then called back. He said, no, he doesn't want to do it. I was like, all right, well, try. And then literally a week later, he's like, all right, he'll do it. And we're like, bam, we got the crew there. It was like, what? And so that was like, I think it was March. And we were premiering the film in end of April. So it was like, it was literally, we had a month to cut. So we had to like basically crack the entire film apart and restructure the entire film. But it was great because with John came all of those little
he's a pivotal element to it.
That we were able to weave together. So it also helped us, we already had about 5 hours of cut out stuff. Like we're like, when you're putting together a documentary, you're editing everything together, and then you're like, well, this part's not going to be in there, and this goes off the the tangential tree. Just now we're on a branch that's withered away, and I don't know, it makes sense anymore. Like and before K, it was like it's going to be a weird Tinkerbell light that floats around, like like that Ram or Rom from Tron's like it was like light. It's going to be like that thing, and they're like, nah, we're not doing that. So there's some artwork, and I was like, I had gotten attached to that shit. Like as like you get attached to someone working on something for a year and a half. Then finally, I remember like Holly and Marie were like sat and we're cutting that thing out. We had a big argument about it. I was like, it's integral to the body. And then you're like, you're right, just cut it.
And it's in the extras, right?
It's all in the extras, but it's like it's so funny because you go through these things where you're like, the film will absolutely not work with it. Just watch it. I was like, you're right, it doesn't work. It works completely without that. Yeah. No one will ever know that it's not there except me. And that's the thing. The weirdest
Kill
thing.
Your babies.
You make stuff and you're like, you become attached to it, but no one else will ever know that anything we destroyed that entire third storyline. What third storyline? Exactly. Yeah. So
the question I have though is about when it comes to John Peters and the phone call scene.
Right.
Now I'm curious because in the middle of this interview, John Peters gets a phone call and takes it, and you keep it in, and it's so great. I could see somebody cutting that out.
Right.
But it really adds a dimension to him that fleshes him out a little bit more.
He just does a business call while you're sitting there waiting.
I call it a palate cleanser because I was like, we had all these scenes where it was like, there were so many scenes with all these amazing production designers, and we're like, we're going to Krypton.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about the suit. Now we're talking about K. Now we're in Brainiac's skull ship. And there was like a good 30-minute section where it's going from one to the next to the next. So a normal audience member, not like a real sweaty, who's like, I want to know more about the suit. Like just a normal person. A normal person was like, why are they still talking about the art? I'm sleepy. So for myself, I was watching it. And I remember because that happened like 3 times where he was like, "This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. I'm gonna get phone calls, and we're just gonna have to roll with it." Because we were like, when we were filming, it was like the phone would ring and be like, no, just keep rolling. Just you could use it if you want. It doesn't matter. I just got to take these calls. So he was talking to people, and it was like I was just taking a break. So one of these calls, I was like, I remember watching it, and I was like, I used to edit Space Ghost, so I was like, I'm gonna fuck with my edit, and I kept cutting back to me and made a loop of me chugging that water. And then did a split screen, so it looked like I was drinking water while he was on the phone. So none of that actually really happened. It was like
really wow.
Yeah, it's creative editing.
Well, so. I would also compliment your acting because it seems very natural and not overstated.
Yes. Well, I mean, since I knew while he was on the phone, I was just drinking and I did a look at the camera. So that was for myself, but then I didn't know I was going to use it. It was like, oh, this will be an outtakes, a gag reel thing or whatever. But
fantastic.
So end up increasing the audio level of the drinking sounds as well. So when you're watching it, if you haven't watched it and you get to that scene, you'll hear distinctly the gulping sound a little bit crisper and louder than normal.
So you didn't Foley that?
I did not Foley it.
Wow,
No,
that's
there
very
were,
impressive.
It was there, and then I literally just raised the volume.
The thing
for
I
it.
like, though, okay, I know this is all very funny, but what I think
God
what
forbid we have a good time,
I know,
Larry.
but I think what's interesting too is, I mean, to me, it pointed out that this dude is a busy guy. He is a
Yeah.
really busy guy, and you said there were 3 phone calls. You showed this one, and I thought it was great. And he did give you the time
Yes.
to answer these questions.
And I garbled the other person so you can't hear what they said.
Yeah.
And it was like what it was. It was like a great little break.
Yeah, and
From all
funny,
these
a
different
humorous
things.
little
It was
thing.
had a
I loved
humorous
it.
moment,
Loved
and then
it.
he was like, "Okay, I'm done." I was like, "All right."
Yeah.
And then we're back to the movie. So it was kind of like, and it was originally twice as long. Because I was really going for it. I went, and I remember when Holly and Marie came in, I was like, I got to show you guys something. I had been up all night, I was like frazzled, and I was like, check this out. And they sat down and watched, and were like, what the fuck is this? And I could tell at first they didn't like it, and they were like, what is this? And I was like, no, it's great, it's funny, it's exactly what the thing needs. And they were like, but it's way too long. I was like, it's not long enough. I'm somebody who will always push.
married to
I'm
you.
always going to
Yeah.
push it, and so we trimmed it down a little bit. And
I'm
it was
glad. I'm glad you had someone working with you to make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
that you had choices.
No, it's checks and balances. It's very
Is
important.
is it in its original length in the extras?
No.
Because that might be for the anniversary
there-
one.
Yeah, there are some stuff that we have. There's an entire history of Superman that we filmed with Grant Morrison that I didn't even.
Wow.
We never
Oh, wow.
put it even on the Blu-ray. So we'll
Nice.
eventually
Yeah.
put that out
Sure.
in some way, shape, or form. But that's like 20 minutes where it literally goes from the beginning of the very original, the
Action
reign of the
comics.
No, not even earlier. The reign of the Superman. There's just that 2-pager that they did when they were in high school, and then all the way to right now. Because talking with Grant Morrison was like a great early. It was an early interview, and he was great because I was like, finally, I don't have to talk. I'll get this dude who completely knows way more about Superman than not me, and I could just be like, Superboy, 1950. I'd throw fucking words at him. He'd be like, for 10 minutes, like
He
some
was
kind of
great.
super. He's poetry.
He's great.
Like
Yeah.
he was so much fun. Like that's why I was like, it's a little tribute to Dune that I put in, like the David Lynch Dune, where it's basically Grant Morrison talking, then he disappears for a second.
Yeah.
And it's like Princess Irulan. Oh, I almost forgot. So it's only for hardcore nerds who would ever even was that a reference? It was. So now you know. But it was like so stupid and goofy. Just I do stuff for myself where I'm like, that's good
Why not?
for me.
Yeah.
And the 3 people maybe on the planet. No one ever noticed it. Now at least people will know. But
There's at least 3 here.
But everything,
Yes.
the way he described, because I was like, tell me Superman's origin without using the word Superman or Kal-El or Krypton. Tell me it. And that's what I got, was
That's
that
cool.
beautiful way of, that origin about the little boy and this, and he has to go to this world.
Right,
and it was
right.
a little, but his full thing was about a minute and a half. But in order for me to cut it together to make it work with that opening sequence, I had to trim out a
Right,
few
right.
words and sentences here and there.
That's
But it
great,
was,
though.
it was poetry, and it was so magical. So, I mean, having someone like that, just to be able to talk about Superman. That was one of the gifts where his opinion about even from an outsider perspective, like yourself, you're like, oh, Nicolas Cage would have been goofy. I was like, because that's the perception of it. People see Nicolas Cage as from the Nicolas Cage of Wicker Man and Nicolas Cage of
God.
all these Pay the Ghost and weird films now.
Yeah.
But you forget that's when he had just won an Oscar.
Right.
He had literally just won an Oscar.
Leaving Las
Well,
Vegas, right? Yeah.
And he got cast to play Superman after he won an Oscar,
Right.
Yeah.
and then was transitioning from being a character actor into a leading man, where he was
Right.
in Con Air and he was in The Rock.
Yeah.
So
Right.
this is the Nicolas Cage of when he became
Right, of
Superman.
1998,
Yeah, so
yeah.
people didn't have as much of a beef with it then as they do even later, years later.
Right,
Like,
right.
Nicolas Cage.
No,
They're
I had a
"You
beef."
mean I know, but
I had a beef.
you're very one of the few from 1998 who had the beef. A lot
Yes.
of people were like,
Right.
no, I like The Rock. That was a giant hit.
Yeah, well, look. Okay, you just threw something out. Okay, look, hey, Academy Award winner. Look, I saw him in that movie. I thought he was great.
he won an Academy Award,
Yes,
Larry.
yes, he did. Yes, he did. And so did Dustin Hoffman for Kramer versus Kramer. But then when he did Hook, you think, oh, perfect casting. No, it was horrible.
Dustin Hoffman is Batman.
Okay, look. No. I think even though someone is an Academy Award winner, it doesn't mean that they can play every
Correct,
character.
Mr.
Every
Strode.
character.
You know what's crazy though? When you see that footage of Cage and those different Superman outfits, you see how lithe he was, or maybe is the word life. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
I like them both. They both work
Yeah.
for me.
I'll just say lift to be different.
For listeners,
How do the Greeks say it?
no, but
James?
for listeners, for listeners who don't know, there is this footage, this strange footage,
like in a hotel room,
like
or whatever,
yeah,
right?
and it's
It's like
really
they're-
weird. It's
Holy
like Nicolas
Grail
Cage.
footage, really.
Yeah,
I mean-
Nicolas Cage in some kind of bizarre Superman.
he's trying on the suit. He's getting-
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
It
but
takes place over 3 years.
Yeah.
There's a little, or 2 years. Sorry, 96 and I'm sorry, not 96. 97 and 98. So the later footage where he's in that super kind of insectoid shiny outfit.
Yeah.
that's like later, and you're like, what? I mean, it's literally like when Holly and I were watching this footage and our Airbnb broke. We got this footage. We had the flying footage from ILM. And then we got all
Which
this
is
stuff
really good.
that we had only heard about. Like a person when I first started this project, a gal who worked at ILM told me, "Oh, there's this flying footage." I was like, "Well, can I get it?" She was like, "I don't have it." I was like, "Do you know anyone who has it?" No. I was like, "God damn it!" So I knew what existed.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'll never be able to get access to that. And then that's the stuff that Lorenzo's talking about, like Lorenzo de Bonaventura. He's like, then we did this footage, these tests for this test footage. We got that stuff, but the footage that none of us knew existed was like, oh, we have this footage of Tim and Nick talking about Superman and doing this, trying on the outfits. And
Your head must have exploded. When you,
literally
like,
we were jumping around like children
Yeah.
in the Airbnb, like, what is this? Like freaking out. And it's like 45 minutes. So what's in the movie is only 7 minutes.
Wow, yeah,
Because you can
that's
because
amazing.
of the use of fair use, you can't just like it's like you can't just air all this footage. You're like, oh, you have to be very selective.
He tries
There's
on
a
like the
certain
Clark Kent outfit even too.
I
Like,
know,
he's
right?
wearing that.
And
It's
I
like-
kind of really dug that version of Clark Kent where he had
Yes.
the Mickey Mouse shirt. He was kind of like
So
weird.
weird,
He's
yeah.
like, I'm going to science fiction conventions.
the more
I could see that.
God,
the more
it's so
the-
insulting.
the more science fiction the costume became,
Yeah.
the more I was comfortable with Nick Cage.
Right, because like
Yeah,
the way
I
I
know
look
what
at
you mean, yeah.
any of these movies is they're like, if you guys read comics, there's Elseworlds, right?
Right.
And so like any movie that's ever been made involving a comic book character to me is an Elseworld. It's not the comic book. Like
Right.
I can always read Watchmen again. I've read it probably 100 times, and it's like seeing a movie or like the Zack Snyder film or the 4-hour version with the little
Right.
cartoon and stuff in it. I love parts of that film adaptation. I
Yeah,
love
I
how
like that movie.
faithful he was to the comic book, except when he wasn't, and that's when it sucks. It's like when he tried to write his own stuff. Hey, let's make it more violent. You're not getting the idea of what this is about. So it's sort of like you could see the mistakes that are there.
The only thing I liked more than the comic was the end.
was the what?
Was the end.
Oh, you didn't like the non-squid?
No, it's a little too outer limits for me.
I know, but that he was fair to say he got it
No,
right from Outer Limits.
And that's fine. And that's
Right,
fine.
right.
But what is done in the film makes a little more sense to me that you make
Works better
Dr.
for the movie.
Manhattan is the threat.
Sure, I get it, but I would have preferred the squid just because it's out there. But like all of us are always like, now the Pentagon's got these. And you were like reading recently,
Sure.
like they've got this whole Project
Yeah, yeah.
X book or whatever. The fuck
Don't
it
get me
is.
wrong. I
know?
want to see the squid.
Yeah, and it probably I don't know if it would have looked exactly like that or whatnot, but it's like but because they cut the squid, they cut the artist colony. They
Got
cut
it.
the artist island. There's so many different facets to a 12-issue series that you can't possibly make in
Right.
a 2-hour or 3-hour movie. But every single comic book movie,
Yes.
period, whether it's the
It's a
garbagey
different
Captain
yeah.
America TV shows from the 70s.
Oh, yeah, with Red Brown.
Yeah, or any or the Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. There's there was always like, I've got to find that whatever that guy was always chasing the Hulk. I mean, watching that show as a kid, you're like, that's not the comic book. So I mean, I feel
Also,
like
how hard is it to find the Hulk?
hey,
Well, he's trailing him across the country.
It's hard, because he's not the Hulk all the time. He's Mr. Hulk, and then he
We
gets
found
back to
Ted
Mr. Man.
Kaczynski
Right.
No, he goes
living in
away.
a shack in the
okay.
woods.
it'd be pretty easy to find him now with face recognition. And be like, yeah, he's at that Howard Johnson.
All right.
Just pick him up. Don't upset him, otherwise he'll get green.
Okay, this is great, but I want to get back to Superman, and one of there was another person that you interviewed.
Well, like you said, you don't
Yeah.
like the idea of this Superman, but I feel like any of these versions of any of these characters, I always have the comic book, so it
It's a
doesn't
different. It's
upset
a different
me.
medium. It's a
I
completely different
mean,
medium.
honestly, to be really blunt, I don't care that much about. Well, it's exciting. Like to me, I'm really excited that the Avengers and the Marvel Studios movies are so much fun. and that they work. Like I loved Thor Ragnarok. I saw it 3
Yeah,
times
me
in the
too.
theater.
I loved it.
It was fantastic. I could not get enough of those Surtur scenes. I could not get enough of the Led Zeppelin super Frazetta style sequence at the end.
I have
Kirby,
Planet Hulk.
Such a
Planet
tribute
Hulk.
to Kirby too.
Planet Hulk is a comic that I love, and I will always have that. Do I kind of wish that maybe in another universe they made Planet Hulk the way that it was more like in the comic? But I still love Thor Ragnarok. I thought combining all those elements, and one thing I have to say is in some of those Marvel movies, I would dial back the humor, maybe just a tiny notch here and there.
Ragnarok had some stretching the humor a little bit.
But overall, I think it's great. I love it.
Personally, I wouldn't dial any of it back because it's like for my enjoyment. I mean, when I first saw Thor, I was like, well, they added, it's like it's not Thor 3. It's like a different Thor. It's like you have Thor and then you have Thor 2 or Thor Dark World, and then you have this, which is kind of a sequel, but not really.
Marvel's smart about all of their films like that. They do each one in their own kind of almost little mini.
But
genre.
I'm afraid though that with the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, that
Everything's gonna be too funny.
everything is now hilarious.
It's not going to be that.
I don't
way.
think
because
Infinity War is not going to be like that.
because Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was a little egregious when it came to the jokes. There are entire scenes that were built around a crappy gag.
There's a Bugs Bunny Warner Brothers like flying around sequence where everybody's eyes are all stretchy. But you guess what? The Russo brothers aren't going to do that. I mean, and Marcus and McFeely, the guys who are who wrote Winter Soldier and who wrote Civil War,
some of the
and are
best
writing
ones.
both of these films. They have their shit together.
I think so.
I mean, they're literally they're super sweaty comic nerds, and they know the characters. And when they're going to add some humor, it's going to be exactly when we.
You're talking me down. I appreciate it.
No, but I feel like every single movie, you don't know what it's going to be. Like it's a crapshoot.
Right.
So
Well, that's
we
why I
just
wanna-
live in a really golden age. Like you can go
We
back
do.
to the Quest for Peace is like what other superhero movie came out that year? None.
I know.
Nothing. It was
Right, it
barren.
really
That's
is.
why.
You
That's
have to
why we
remember
went.
that.
That's why we went to see Quest for Peace because it was the only
Yeah,
thing.
it was it.
Yes.
I watched Buck Rogers because I wanted to see some spaceships and lasers.
Remember Hawk? I'm still waiting for that action figure. Where's my Hawk action figure?
I want his ship. His ship is really
I want
cool
his
too.
ship, too.
Had the little talons. I latched onto your vehicle.
I love that.
We did an episode not too long ago.
Just so you know, my wife and I have a life-size Twiki in our living room.
Wow, that's pretty
Just so
awesome.
you know.
Yeah.
So
I know that
Only
exists.
for sex. It's only for sex.
But Matt, you were
Is
saying.
Dr. Theo watching you?
we have to get a Dr. Theo.
He's like, BB, I must turn off Dr. Theo.
No,
You can wear like that, like Flavor Flav. Like I've got my own, rocking my own
Dr.
clock.
Theo is the camera.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, back in the day, where was the Hawk figure? Because
Yeah.
we did an episode where we were like, what the toys that we wish they had made.
Right, they waste all this time making Tiger Man. In fact, they screwed up again when they made these Mego
I
figures.
saw this. Yeah, Mego. Well,
You're
they're
like,
pretty
you have
close.
Buck
though.
Rogers.
Buck Rogers is good.
Yeah, and then why did you waste time making Tiger Man?
Where's
Nobody wanted that.
Nobody
no
wants
one,
Tiger Man.
Even Wilma. I would have rather
Yeah.
have a Wilma Deering figure.
Yeah, make
and
another
Hawk.
Tweaky and make Hawk, man. And they were
Yeah.
like, that's on the back of the thing because I ended
Yeah.
up getting the Buck Rogers
Yeah.
one.
I
'Cause
remember.
I was like, yeah, I'll get Hawk when that comes out. Never happened.
I know.
You know
I
why?
want Hawk.
Because it was designed. It was designed and made by people who had absolutely no idea who these characters were.
Right.
That's
I-
why.
I
Feels
want,
that
I
way.
want,
That's right,
I
too.
want, I want the nice 12-inch Hot Toys-esque Hawk with actual feathers for the hair.
See, that to me, I'm cool with if it's just like a thing that sits on the wall.
Whatever.
I don't need it to be posable.
Whatever, John.
I'm just saying. You know what though? A couple people have made Holly and I Nicolas Cage action figures at comic conventions.
Oh,
They've
nice.
been presented with
That's a
several
great
different
idea,
versions,
actually,
and it's
yeah.
great. Some guy actually
that's
made a
great.
really great one where it's actually a skull, like some Nicolas Cage. I don't know where that figure came from, but it's a Nicolas Cage action figure.
Wow.
Maybe it was from Ghost Rider or something.
Maybe or
But it
Or
was
they
like-
sculpted it, maybe.
Maybe yeah.
No. This is like it was like
like
whatever they
perfect
did. It was like
manufactured.
That was from the Leaving Las Vegas line of action.
I know, right? For adults only. Yeah, it's really depressing. You could cry in a bottle of vodka while cradling this 12-inch action figure.
The overdose playset is a must.
Yeah, the special clinic. That, you know.
Well, look now. This is really great.
Okay, go ahead.
This is really great. Okay, and it's all very funny. But getting
Oh, you
back
want to get serious and
No, no,
sweaty?
no,
It's like every time we're getting funny, he's the guy who's like, look,
you've noticed
you guys
that.
are having fun.
John.
But let's get real serious for a second.
I want to
All right,
stay
let's get
focused.
serious.
Look, this is a great movie. That
Try
you
to
did.
enjoy both. Larry.
Let's get unfocused.
But
there.
you also interviewed the head of the studio, which also boggled my mind.
Right.
How were you able to get him?
I had a couple of friends who were able to pull a favor and say, hey, we know this guy and we like your project and we're going to make a call. So that's how we got Lorenzo. So
That's awesome. Now let me ask you, because like this was back in 1998, and when, like you said, it wasn't the golden age yet of superhero movies.
Right.
Effects were still limited to a point. You know, as far as what they could do with an all-out superhero
well, I mean,
movie.
we had obviously like Jurassic Park was already out. And CG
It was the dawning of
was
that.
CG.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Well, no, but this is '98,
Relic?
so yeah. So there's a lot of films that were already like Phantom Menace is in production.
Yeah.
Right,
Right
okay.
now,
Unfortunately.
in
Yeah.
'98. But
Right.
I'm just saying,
But
it's
we
like,
didn't know. We didn't know at the time.
Yeah, we didn't know.
But
we
like
didn't
what
know.
I'm saying is like any big Hollywood production, like we always say, like how even in Hollywood still today, it's a miracle any movie gets made because of all the disparate elements, all the different egos,
Right.
especially for a huge property like Superman.
Yeah,
and
$300
Warner
million
Brothers
movie.
and,
$300
and
million.
Tim Burton and Nicolas Cage. So all these elements coming together. Do you think if the movie was made, would it have been a good movie? Would it have been an interesting movie? Like, do you think it would have been a flop, a hit? Because I personally think it would have been really fascinating. I don't know if it would have been really a Superman movie. I don't know. I mean,
No.
like,
Or a
but if
hit.
it-
No,
yeah,
I
but
don't
like,
think so.
I think it would have been a hit and it
No.
would have been fun. I mean, because like if you look at like what Tim Burton moved on to do, he went and did Sleepy Hollow. And that was
Sleepy
an
Hollow,
Andrew,
I liked a
Andrew
lot.
Kevin Walker script, and it was like he had that lined up to ready to tee off, and it was like when they just shuttered the film like a week before filming was supposed to start. It was like he had to take a break for a couple months, and he was like, I got to just go do something different. But the headspace that he was in at the time is he wanted to try doing something outside of his wheelhouse, and he wanted to do something brighter and lighter, and that's what Superman
Right,
wouldn't have been
because
like.
Batman was always at night in Gotham City
Yeah, it
and-
wouldn't have
right.
been a spooky goth Superman. It would have been a
Right.
fun, bright Superman. And I think with the special effects that they were going to be doing at that time, and with what the Lex character that was going to be played by Kevin Spacey, Christopher Walken was going to play Brainiac. I think there would have been comedy elements to it, but that's exactly what I would have wanted from that. Like I always say, like that's when I started. Even why I wanted to make this documentary is I want to put this in my player and watch it, and because there's movies that I love that aren't that great, but there's scenes in it that I love.
But you see,
there's
but
scenes
see, John, that's why I
from
think that's
the
what I think-
Black Hole. There's a whole bunch of different movies
Right.
that I
Oh,
can
yeah.
watch that aren't that good, but there's moments in them that I love, and I
Or-
feel
or
like
they're
Superman,
beautiful,
But you know?
Superman Lives would have been that. Superman Lives would have
Right,
not
right.
been Batman
Yes.
and Robin.
No.
because
Right,
Tim Burton
right,
is
okay.
an artist, and he had these amazing kind of set pieces that would have been really fantastic
Mm-hmm.
if we did go to Brainiac's skull ship. If we did see that version of Brainiac as the spider creature, not like a giant spider from whatever that Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
That's the final, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
version of him as this alien under a cloak that's spiderish.
Yeah, or K. That
Or K. I mean,
Yeah, that
there's
would've
certain
been interesting.
things
Yeah.
that I think would have played out, and I think the final script that Dan Gilroy was writing had a lot of emotional heart to it. It would have been a much different film than Superman Returns or any of the previous Superman movies. So for some people, they wouldn't have liked it, but I think it would have gotten over because it had enough really cool scenes in it that people would have been like, "This Superman is fun. It's cool. It's different."
And do you think people would have gone, despite Quest for Peace, out of the curiosity factor?
Well, but remember, this is 10 years after.
Yeah,
Quest.
it's-
This is like
much
actually
later.
almost 12 years.
So yeah, now you got people that are hungry for that.
This was coming out right around the same time as it would have come out right around the same time as The Matrix. I mean, literally, it was like kind of come
Right.
out in like I think like end of '98, and they had pushed it to '99.
But see, John, here's
Wow.
the thing that gets me. I mean, when you look at some of the stuff that Tim Burton's done, like I'm a fan of classic Planet of the Apes, and Tim Burton takes, I want to do my reimagined Planet of the Apes, okay, which I hated. I absolutely hated.
I think we're all on board with that, right?
yeah, you could ask Tim
look-
Burton, and he doesn't like it either.
There you
Okay,
go.
okay.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
it's like-
he's very honest in one of the extras on the Blu-ray where I go through his entire filmography, and it was playing a game with him where I was like, just say whatever comes to mind, and literally all the movies that all of us are in agreement with, he's like, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was doing.
But here's the thing,
great.
John, if you are the head of a studio or a big time producer, you think, I'm going to hire this creative genius, it's like you're putting all your beans into this thing, to have Tim Burton make something that's going to be big, it's going to be selling, and I think for this, there's so much. Yes, it looks all the drawings that they did. It looks amazing. It looks fantastic. But the story of Superman, what I know and love and hold dear to my heart, that's not what they were making. They weren't making Superman. My feeling was you could have called it, Super Jim or a rubber guy or something. It could have been.
I don't get that.
It could John. It could have been a completely different superhero.
But you're wrong what you're saying, because if you watch the movie, you would have seen that there was Krypton in that. There was all these elements that are part of the Superman mythology. What wasn't there for you? Because I don't understand.
No, John,
you can
I
say
did
my
watch
name
it.
5-6 times, but you're not answering my question.
No, I am answering
Why is
your
it not
question.
Superman? Why is it not Superman?
It's not Superman.
Why?
Because it's not Superman.
But why?
Superman, Christopher Reeve, Truth, Justice, the American way. That's the thing that I hold dear to my heart.
But that's been done 4 times already.
So you're
stuck
stuck in the past. You're stuck in 1978.
Absolutely.
And that's why you like Superman Returns.
Yes,
that's exactly what. But once again, you have your right to be wrong, or you have your right. You have your right to have your
Exactly.
Here's what I'm saying.
But I think
the reason why this film wasn't made is you were saying it's $300 million.
But you're the typical person who liked Superman Returns.
No, I'm the typical person who's going to be buying a ticket to go see the movie.
But I've had this argument with thousands of people, just like you.
Millions of people. There's going to be a handful of like Matt and Sean and you.
No, hey, look,
Actually, you're the minority in this.
You know what? Though? Hey, I'm
I
gonna
don't
tell you
think so.
something. I'm gonna tell you something.
No, speaking as the filmmaker, you're the minority. You're the person that I've talked to where it was like, I instantly could always say, oh, I bet you like Superman Returns because of your kind of weird hatred towards this idea, because it's not the Christopher Reeve version, which I understand. I love the Christopher Reeve version, but I don't have your mentality about it. I like all different kinds of versions of takes on these characters, and I'm not like glued to one specific one. I don't need to see a remake of something that I've already seen. I get where you're coming from, but literally I've talked to way more people who, after they saw the documentary, were like, I want to see that movie because it was different, because they were going to try something different, and they have the flexibility in how they perceive Superman, is that it can be a whole bunch of different versions.
And the thing
I'm
is,
sure you didn't like Man of Steel either.
And I think it would have been, to be honest, as bizarre as the movie would have been, I kind of think it would have been more interesting of a movie and more creative of a movie than Man of Steel or Superman Returns.
Everything we're talking about is conjecture, because we don't know. It could, absolutely right. It could have been horrible. It could have been worse than Quest for Peace, or it could have been that movie where it was like, man, then they made Justice League and Michael Keaton came back, and they actually got Wonder Woman. They had Linda Carter come back. Who knows what they could have done?
Here's a safe bet based on what the documentary tells us, is that if you look at Edward Scissorhands and the portrait of a protagonist as being incredibly alone and alienated, and the angle, I don't remember which screenwriter in particular was trying to maximize that particular angle, but we would have walked away from it with at least some of that.
Yes.
Which you'd never really seen before in a Superman movie.
It would have definitely had a take on it that we've still have never seen.
Right,
So, I mean, we didn't see it in Man of Steel either. So, I mean, that's what interested me back when we were like, finding out more and more about this. And we were reading the different scripts, and Dan Gilroy's script really triggered that. And that was actually the final iteration, that final draft of like what him and Nicolas Cage and Dan Gilroy are all trying to go for, is like how they were trying to, take this idea of what Superman was going through as an alien whose planet doesn't exist anymore and they're alone.
Right.
And so I like that take on it. So I feel like we still have never seen that take. Even in the comic books, they don't really kind of delve into that.
That's probably one of the reasons why that comic always has problems selling, because it's the same thing. It's funny. When I first saw Superman Returns, I kind of liked it, except for like by the end, I thought it was a giant mess. But I also know myself in the sense of I'm going to a movie and I start to hear that music again, and I'm falling back into a comfort place. So because of that, it's very almost like Pavlovian, where you start to forgive things that you shouldn't forgive. And it's interesting because I've gone back and watched that movie, and there are a handful of scenes that I think are cool that would be great in another movie, but as a movie in and of itself, it's a mess.
Yeah.
And I would also say that even what I enjoyed in Man of Steel has some great stuff. I would say the Krypton stuff is probably the best part of the entire movie.
I love the Krypton stuff.
I do too.
Is the best part of the entire movie.
All the science fiction-y elements of that. I love.
But I like even Zod and all the Kryptonians when they show up.
Michael Shannon can do no wrong. I mean, I love him, and I think there was a great movie there, but it bungled it because it became I got bored. I fell asleep during
Yeah,
a fight scene.
yeah,
How is
yeah.
that possible?
But that's indicative of a lot of big Hollywood movies where they have too many end set pieces where they're like,
Yes.
they could have cut out that entire thing where he has to go fight that tentacled thing on the other side of the Indian Ocean.
Right.
Yeah,
If they
yeah.
just cut all of that out, none of us would have ever noticed, and he would have just fought Zod.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
wouldn't have
Yeah.
been tired.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when he finally fought Zod, I remember seeing it, I was like, I'm tired. I was like tired of all the graphics and explosion. I was
would
like,
also-
literally
Yeah,
like,
it
I
just-
think
it
you
just
if
washed
you
over you.
Yeah.
cut a good 7-8 minutes out of that too would have helped.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
It was
that's what I
just,
mean.
It's just
It's like,
indulgent.
yeah,
It
there's
was too
just
much.
the indulgence of special effects and CG and like rotating around a building and like,
Right.
look what we can do. Is like all of us know what we can do now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we're
I-
playing a video game. I don't want to watch a video game.
But still, wouldn't you
And-
admit Henry Cavill? He looks like Superman.
He looks
like
not
Superman.
not in Justice League. He's got a weird.
I know.
Oh, yeah,
Well, you know
I
about
was
the
so
reason
bummed
for that.
about
That's
that.
so weird.
Is it really true? Because I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet
Is it
either.
really distracting? Is you really can tell?
Well, here's the horrible thing about Justice League. Like, I liked it because I went in knowing it was like going to be a giant train wreck. I knew it was like, oh, there's like
Yeah.
half of it's been rewritten.
Yeah, yeah.
The tone is going to shift around. I just there's no way that you don't take Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon, who are completely different,
Completely.
like night and day.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I know Joss was working with Zack for a little minute, and then they were like, no, now you're just doing what we want,
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're making it like Avengers. So it was like literally you have two different movies kind of cut together, and it's not like jarringly apparent, like, oh wow, there's the Avengers, and now we're seeing Zack Snyder's thing, but you can tell, you can tell, or maybe you can't. You're like, oh, I thought that scene was a Joss scene. No, that was actually Zack. We're like, all right, well, they blended it better than I thought, but they rushed it, and that's the sad thing.
That's right, rushing it,
and,
yeah.
and when you have a giant movie that millions
I heard the
of people,
Aquaman scenes are relatively good. No,
the ones that are left, they cut out like 30
that right?
minutes of Aquaman. Yeah, I mean, they cut out all of the characters, so you don't really have enough to like. You're introducing Aquaman, and like, so Willem Dafoe is not in it. I mean, all these scenes that you've heard that were supposed to be in the movie aren't in the movie.
Wow.
In fact, if you watch the trailer, every other shot that's in the trailer isn't in the movie. Like, just watch the almost the second to last trailer, because the one that's on Xbox, like rent Justice League, I watched and I was like, oh yeah, that every single other shot in this trailer is not in the movie. It's astonishing.
That's
like,
incredible.
Was that for length?
well, yeah, I mean, it was
Well, who
length.
knows?
It was
It's probably-
it was like, so many.
How long
weird
is the
decisions.
movie?
It's under 2 hours.
under 2 hours.
So maybe when they finally put the 4-disc Blu-ray, we'll have like 7 versions. We'll be able to see it. And it's,
Well, the sad thing is, like, I don't think we'll ever see Zack Snyder's cut. Which I mean, you could say sad or not, depending on whether
Right.
you like,
Be interesting to see it though.
I'm interested to see it because definitely it was a much darker film.
Sure.
And it was following in the same tone that
Batman versus Superman.
BVS, which I did not like the theatrical cut. I hated it.
Yeah, I
But then
think
when I
only-
saw the ultimate cut, I was like, it felt shorter and it made more sense.
Really?
But that doesn't mean that I love the film. I was just
Sure.
like, I like it
Yeah.
better. I can tolerate it. And if I was ever to watch it again, I would only watch that version of it. Because
I like Affleck. I thought Affleck was.
I liked him as Bruce Wayne and Batman, but to be blunt, I got so tired of him complaining about being Batman. I was like,
the whole
just-
movie. The whole
no,
movie.
Affleck
I don't
as a
even
person,
want him
no,
to
no.
be. I don't even
Yeah.
want him to be Batman. I'm like so tired. I was like, look, you know how many people would complain about being Batman? Only you. Get out of here. You know what I mean? It's like, I know it must have sucked. I'm so
Sure, yeah,
sorry
right.
for you.
Well, he is an
Yeah.
Academy Award winner.
No, he's got other films. to make.
Undeservedly.
No, but look, the way I look at it too is like, hey, look, if he doesn't want to be Batman, cool. Just don't drag
Yeah,
it out.
shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Just
like
move on,
Yeah,
man.
move on. That's how I feel about it. I don't want to hear about is he or isn't he. He's like, just get someone else. Like, he's like James Bond now. Like, you could be anybody could be Batman.
Yeah.
So let's have that happen. I just don't want to. Like, I've talked about is Batman gonna blah 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 for like 7 months now. I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's like, can't wait for Matt Reeves to announce whoever the hell he's going to get to play Batman. So, but they're like, but he's still going to be Batman in Flashpoint. Don't care.
Yeah.
So Justice League was a weird one for me because though I liked the film because I liked what they did with all those characters, and I loved Wonder Woman. So
Me too.
She
Yeah, me
comes
too.
out smelling like roses. Flash is really fun. Aquaman doesn't have enough scenes to be a character. Cyborg doesn't have enough scenes to be a character. Superman comes back way too late and has a weird mouth, and and Steppenwolf.
So weird.
Well, not the reason. I mean,
Steppenwolf isn't a villain. I mean,
Oh,
they
really? Yeah.
cut out all of the story part.
Really?
All of the story part of why he is trying to attack Earth is not in the movie. So when you hear about all these scenes, you're like, yes, he was the mother boxes where had his mother in there. All the stuff that you read about, that's not in the movie. So he's just like and then now I will destroy Earth. Like he's like a video game, and you're like, wow.
Wow. Now
That's what's going on.
The thing with Superman with the Clevel's mouth is because he was filming Mission Impossible 6, I believe, at the time that they needed him to film scenes for Justice League. So they had to CGI out
his mustache.
Oh. So in the whole movie, he had a mustache when they filmed it, and they had to remove it with CGI, and it looks weird, right?
It's the first minute of Justice League is online. You could watch it, and the very first minute is Joss Whedon directed the first like 6 minutes. He redirected it, and it's from a kid's cell phone, like asking Superman these kind of questions, and it literally looks like a monster face, like it's moving around.
That's terrible.
And you're like. It's like that's how they open the movie.
Why not just do like Clutch Cargo? You know, like.
But it looks like that.
Oh,
couldn't they shave the mustache and then put a fake mustache on for Mission Impossible?
Well,
like
yes,
going
but
the other way?
that's what Warner Brothers said. We will pay. We will actually put a digital mustache on, and then
that's
Paramount
got to be
was
better
like,
than.
no.
Oh my god!
They could, and it was like. But here's the worst part about it: is every time you see Superman, except for like one scene, it's all new footage. So. Like people are like, well, you know, Joss Whedon isn't redoing that much. You know, I was like arguing with a lot of online people for months after I'd heard he had rewritten the movie and like literally was redirecting the film from sources that I know.
Right.
So I was like kind of just saying, look, just be prepared for it to be a different kind of movie. It's like what I'm hearing is he's rewritten 50 pages. People are like, he did not. And this, he got screenwriting credit. The only way you can get co-screenwriting credit is to actually rewrite it like half the movie.
Right.
And then when you see the film, he's directed about half of the film.
Okay. Wow.
So I mean, there's sequences where you're like, you'll be able to tell because Ben Affleck's hair changes. Like, literally, that's Joss. Oh, there's Zach. That's Joss. That's Zach.
That's considering such a huge property and so much money that you have those kind of things.
People
because, like you said, it's
got
rushed.
fired. Yeah, and people got totally fucking fired on this, and deservedly so. It's like it is kind of a shame because you're like. You know, it wasn't a disaster. I mean, when you see this movie, you're like, oh, if they even spent another 3 months, if they just pushed it to like March of 2018, the mustache thing wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
They could have smoothed it out, had a few more screenings, and been like, maybe we should put Darkseid back in and add more of the villain's storyline because it doesn't make sense right now. So you have all these characters come together for no reason. You know,
what does it say
or for
about
a more childlike sell a toy reason. So
what does it say though about our mustache technology?
That it needs at least 6 months to bake. It's not a shake and bake like Alien Colony type of thing.
It is.
Where are the ladies in
Tyrannosaurus
Bangladesh
Rexes.
who are
We can make.
I would think they could perfect that by now.
We can
Sewing
do
this thing
fur.
strand by strand.
Fur like Pixar's.
Monsters
Monsters Inc.
Maybe because they were
dinosaurs.
rushed, like didn't have enough time. Or something.
And I
How about
hate
a fake
hearing.
one?
No.
How about gluing on? Look, there are people that I have arguments with to this day who don't believe that Shatner wore a hairpiece in the original series of Star Trek.
And he did.
And he did.
We all know that, but some people don't believe it.
Right.
It's a really good one.
Let's talk about other movies that didn't get made.
Yes.
Let's do that because we're talking about Justice League, and I want to bring up.
And I'm glad.
I want to bring up
Norman
Justice League Mortal because it's like that was that George Miller,
the director
of Road Warrior,
and
Happy Feet.
And Happy Feet.
And Pig.
Babe.
Babe.
Yeah.
Pig.
I just call it Pig.
That's a great movie, by the way.
I love
I love that movie.
I like Pig better than that.
Pig was pretty good. Pig is the one that won the Oscar.
Pork was
Pig.
The other white meat was the one that just got away.
Pig is the name of the Zack Snyder version.
That's right. That's right. It's just called Pig.
All right, for our listeners, there is no pig. It's called Babe.
Yes, there is. Find it.
We want to start.
Google it.
Rumor.
Google Pig.
So, what is Justice League Mortal?
Justice League Mortal is a 2008 version of Justice League that George Miller was going to actually direct, and they
No
cast
way.
it. Everyone has costumes. They
when
were
did this
building.
happen?
They were building
Based on
sets.
Infinite Crisis and the OMAC
Oh my
project.
god, I had no idea.
Maxwell Lord was in it.
Yes.
Jay Baruchel was playing Maxwell
Right.
Lord.
And the basic story is that Batman has this database of all this information about the superheroes, and it gets hacked by Maxwell Lord.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of other stuff that happens, involving nanotechnology and OMAC cyborgs, but it sounded like a pretty interesting project.
And it's, here's the funny thing, because like after The Death of Superman Lives, what happened for a couple years after it came out, a lot of people would tweet me like, oh, you got to make what happened to Justice League Mortal, or The Death of Justice League Mortal, what happened?
Right.
And I was kind of half interested, because like honestly, the only reason I made this film was because I was interested in this Superman project.
Right.
I was like, oh, this would have been interesting. And then, then as I went into this quest of finding out about it, I, took 2.5 years of my life. It was like a very trying experience, to be blunt about it. But ultimately, I was very happy with the outcome, because we took something that everyone thought would have sucked and changed their mind. Like literally, most people who see the movie are like, "I wish that movie
like to
got
see
made."
that. Yeah, right.
But every single person before, including myself, were like, "I saw that picture where it looks like his head is stuck on an action figure, and it's disheveled, and it's like, and like 1 or 2 drawings, and you're like, that movie would have been horrible. We have avoided a train wreck, or like dodged a bullet." I'd hear all that stuff while I was working on this movie, and until people actually saw the film, that's all I would encounter from every single fan. Any convention I go to, it was like, "Oh, that movie would have been garbage," or this blah blah blah. And it's like, once people saw the film, then they could see the possibilities of what they were trying to do. Some people could see that. So for me, Justice League, I felt the same way. I was like, well, I wonder what that would have been like. But I got lucky to have gotten a ton of pictures from the production, like Armie Hammer in his Batman suit, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Flash, Aquaman, all of the final outfits, all of the actors in their outfits, photos, sets. I've got all of the production art.
So they got very close.
They were literally, it was very similar to a lot of these other films where you're like, they're a couple weeks away from shooting, but they all of a sudden a writer's strike happened. But even before the writer's strike, there was like a bunch of union disputes. So it was literally a bunch of these problems just got in the way of the production, where they kept moving forward, and then they had to freeze it. And then they were, we'll come back once this thing happens. Once that got cleared up, then the writer's strike happened. And
I guess there was also Australian tax incentives.
Yes, there was all these things that they had built the Justice League set. There's a 45-minute animatic of the entire film, like all the action scenes were all like. I mean, George Miller doesn't screw around. Obviously, when you saw Fury Road with like the command center of storyboards everywhere, it's sort of like
the guy's like 70 years old. Fury Road. It's like
I mean, when he's making an action film, it's like that was why I was like, this movie probably would have had amazing action scenes. But to be honest with you, it's like the script is not all that. It's once again one of those, like, it's not written by people who like know about the comics,
care about it and understand it.
Well, yeah, it's and the designs, I mean, surprisingly are shockingly bad.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, I lost interest in doing anything about the film, because it was like the most important thing for me as a filmmaker is to be interested in the topic,
right?
And I don't want to pretend So it was like, it was one of those things where it's like, and I'm not going to release those pictures. It's like there's I could tell you, like, the Armie Hammer Batman's outfit looked great. That looked like it was very like a militaristic kind of armored. It was like silver, very like sharp, weird kind of military style Batman armor.
Tough-looking Batman.
Very tough-looking Batman. You've seen the Wonder Woman images. Those were actually released online. Megan, a gal that he works with, was in a bunch of his other films. She was going to play Wonder Woman. So you've seen what that looked like, and that looked pretty cool. Flash, literally a spandex outfit, like a cosplay outfit.
Wow.
Green Lantern, a literal cosplay, like I mean, literally, I was like, that's the finished outfit? Martian Manhunter looked just like Martian Manhunter, but he had a giant head sculpt. It was the guy who plays the big, beefy guy's like, with the, I can't remember what his name is from Fury Road. Charge of everything. I've got a skull mask on, whatever.
Which is, by the way, what
Immortan Joe.
Yes.
Which, by the way, that whole getup is what keeps George Miller alive.
I know, right? That's a painful looking process.
You were talking about that movie, which reminds me then of that. I remember picking this up at one of those Shrine Show conventions, but it was this dupe of the Justice League TV show.
Oh, it's so horrible.
Which is also
I have it.
It's so terrible.
Was it a pilot? Just a pilot?
It was just a pilot.
Yeah.
The weird thing is Green Lantern's outfit is blue. Like, and I still can't really figure that part out. They call him Green Lantern. All the stuff that comes out of the ring is green. I don't know if they were like going to color correct it or I don't know.
Weird.
It's got fire and ice. It's got like some of the characters from the J.M. DeMatteis, Keith Giffen.
Love that one.
Kevin McGuire.
Kevin McGuire,
run.
right,
Yeah,
right,
well, everyone's got the weird faces, you know.
But does
Weird.
not capture any of the charm of the
It's-
comic.
Is it better? Is it better than Legends of the Superheroes from the 70s?
No, because
Yes.
that has Solomon Grundy in it. Nothing gets better
It
than
has
that.
Charlie
And that
Callis in it
achieves-
too.
And that achieves what it set out to do.
Yes.
To be ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
to
stupid.
be like one of the worst things. It's like Star Wars Christmas special.
Yeah,
for
it is. It's that level. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, Justice League Mortal was one of those like we were talking about like films that could have some kind of an adaptation that are done like disaster artists, and the show that I do, Movie Talk, Perry Nemiroff had brought up. I'd like to see Fantastic Four, like a behind the scenes, like the story of Josh Trank trying to make this Fantastic Four movie with all the Fox interference,
Oh, yeah.
and all of the he's staying at this place where they're like messing with the house that he's staying at, and there's all this weird behind the scenes stuff that was going on. Like there's an entire cut of Fantastic Four with a fantastic car where Doctor Doom is chasing them through time, and I've seen that. I was like, wow, that looks crazy. The Fantastic Car is not even in the movie. He's like, I know. It's like some mind blowing. Like there's an entire other cut of the Fantastic Four that you'll never see, and those are the weird things. Like we'll never see the Zack Snyder Justice League. I don't care how many people sign a petition. Why? Because they fired Zack Snyder. People keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Right.
They removed him from the project that he had been busting his ass on relentlessly. And then he had a tragic death in his family.
Right.
So it was like, look, man, he's not coming back. I don't know for sure, but if I was him and was treated so horribly, I'd be like, y'all can go suck it, man. I'm not coming back.
Right.
You can cut the footage up however you want, but you're not getting a director's cut from me.
Right.
Why don't you go have Joss do it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like Joss is like, well, look, his director's cut, you'll see those other 45 minutes that he had to cut out of stuff that he shot. But
Right.
I don't know what kind of
Like
hodgepodge.
the definitive,
There is no
Zack
definitive
Snyder
anything
version.
because the Zack Snyder cut, according to a lot of people from Warner Brothers, was so dark. I'm like, well, how dark was it? I mean, because that Aquaman lasso scene is Zack Snyder. That's not Joss Whedon. Well, you guys haven't seen the movie, but I'm just saying there's a scene in it that is inherently funny that brings out a really cool thing using Wonder Woman's lasso where you're like, wow, that's really smart. That's from the original, not messed with cut. So I think, and so is the scene with a lot of the Flash and his like sense of humor is in the original cut. That's how he was written.
Right.
It's just the jokier, even more jokier stuff is now added on, tacked on.
Right.
So I feel like there is a cut that I'm interested in seeing, especially if it had more about Jack Kirby's New Gods. It had more about some of the Apocalypse. It had Darkseid, and it had all these elements that aren't
I want all the Jack Kirby stuff.
I know, but it's like that's the thing that kills me. I'm like, who made the decision to cut that stuff out? Because hopefully they're the ones who got fired. I know like a bunch of people got fucking fired, but I just want to like, as a comic book fan who wants to see cool DC films and not like, really half-ass kind of like studio freaking out and recutting, having a trailer company cut Suicide Squad. Like just like the dumbest possible decisions made. Like you couldn't even think of something more stupid. When you hear the reasoning and the weird like herky-jerky, like, I know, but what about this? Like I'm sure they were all shitting their pants in a room. Like, what should we do? Crying. That's all I can imagine. Because the decisions that those morons did were so dumb that I can't imagine like a real, or at least so out of touch.
Yeah.
Like so out of touch with like what people want to see in the theaters, what people read, but actually what people want to see, so out of touch that they don't deserve to be an executive.
It is amazing that look, there are detractors of the Marvel films and all that, but look, they have done a smart thing. I know we've said this before, but to take a shared universe franchise that they have of those properties and been so successful, and for the most part, it all works so beautifully.
Consistent
and to keep seeing Warner Brothers and DC trying and hard and stumbling, and it's just so it's like you guys are never going to get
It's
it.
so
Like,
That's why they're going through so many problems over there. It's really a shame.
and it makes it even. But the more successful Marvel is, is even more embarrassing for the DC and
It makes it really embarrassing when they keep re-announcing a slate of films with no writers or directors or dates attached. You're like, I don't want to hear any more about your fake movies. All I want to hear about is when is the Batman coming out? When is the Superman movie coming out?
Right.
I want a writer and a director attached. Can you announce that, please?
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna feel a little bit more confidence. Right now, like it's like Natalie Portman, like what is that? Vote of no confidence from the horrible Phantom Menace. I feel like I'm in a floating pod that's like sinking. I'm like, what is happening? You're like, you're on the DC pod. Help me! I'm rudderless. There's no one in charge. Where's the Feige? He doesn't exist. You're like floating next to a bunch of like 5 salacious crumbs jumping around. Like you're like you're on some weird pod.
Where's that movie? I want to see that Star
I'm
Tours.
going to see that movie.
I don't want to see that movie.
Yeah, but
I do.
it is a shame. It's like,
But there was a time, you've brought up a number of things here. Of course, the Fantastic Four and the Marvel franchise. Of course, we all love what they're doing now, for the most part. But there was a time.
oh yes.
And talk about people not understanding the project and getting it completely wrong. Here's a movie that I still, all that being said, would have liked to have seen. And I guess, and I'm sure you know about this, there was a Silver Surfer movie way back when. The producer was Lee Kramer, and he was fresh off Xanadu.
Yeah.
Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John.
I love
that
the sound.
Xanadu.
The soundtrack is great.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
I love Xanadu when I saw it in the theater.
Okay.
I love it. Gene
Okay.
Kelly rocking out.
There you go.
On the roller skates.
Look,
Yeah.
come on. Let's all
Fine.
just be honest here, okay? And I'm not saying it's a great movie, but I like.
I'm saying it's a great movie.
He's saying it's a great movie.
ELO
there.
soundtrack and Olivia Newton-John. I'm saying it's a great movie.
I said the
There is
soundtrack.
We might
Yeah,
argue
love
about Superman Lives, but Xanadu is the shit.
Okay.
All right, I will argue this, but no.
You will be wrong.
Right. I lean more Rock and Roll High School, but that's a whole nother show.
I like rock and roll too, sir.
I know we've talked about. Yeah, there's 2 bands. There's the Stray Cats and B-52s, and he stopped there.
No,
but that's fine. It's okay.
No.
It's all right. I like them too, so it's fine.
All right,
Everybody
go on.
loves the Ramones. All right.
Yes,
So
that's true.
what is this
Yeah.
movie?
But so
the
the movie,
Silver Surfer.
It's the Silver Surfer movie, and so the idea that they had, which Lee Kramer had, was he was going to cast Olivia Newton-John as the Silver Surfer.
Oh,
What?
That was a plan. That was an actual plan.
Oh my God.
Paul McCartney was going to do the music. And what Kramer said at the time, he goes, we're going to make an epic picture on the scope of 2001 Space Odyssey with the kind of soundtrack that film had, only using contemporary rock and roll. Sounds like it'll work.
Giorgio Moroder is going to be on
exactly.
there. You're like, all right.
This is my-
Although
Okay,
Olivia
now-
Newton-
now
Olivia
look-
Newton-
No,
although
chime
Olivia
in
Newton-John
here.
in a skin tight silver spandex outfit, I might be going to see
That's what
that.
I'm saying. All my
And this is taking place like right after Xanadu, right?
Yeah.
all my
yeah.
snarky
So-
comments aside, I totally want to see that movie.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, I want to see that movie.
I like how the aspirations are like, it's like 2001, but with an updated soundtrack. You're like, how is that anywhere near 2001? Just 'cause
We
you
promise, yeah.
Well, I just
What we do, we want to make a really long, kind of dry, dialogue-less film, and it's just Paul McCartney music.
No,
she's an ape and she throws a surfboard up in the air.
No.
And then suddenly it's-
She's not going to be an
And
ape.
suddenly it's the song Jet.
Yes,
See, you guys, no, it would have been something a little bit more hip. It would have been cutting edge at that
Hip?
time. Yeah,
Well,
at that
it
time.
would have been like the
At that
Apple.
time.
Paul
Look,
McCartney
look,
at
like
that
the
time.
Apple. Hey, do you remember when Giorgio Moroder, he took Metropolis? Remember? They took Metropolis, and he had all
Yeah.
those great music
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah, it was like boop beep bop boop boop beep boop bop boop.
Okay, that's one part, but there was some great music in that, John.
I'm not going to argue that I saw multiple versions of Metropolis. I don't know if I could ever see it again because I saw like the 4-hour version with like here's some storyboards. You're like, I can't do it.
Well,
Can't do it.
wait. Are you talking about the Giorgio Moroder version?
No. There's another version
Yeah,
that
there's
came
Well, that's
out.
what I'm talking. So look.
Yeah, that
this
was
guy-
colorized,
this
too. They,
Guy,
like, did little
this
colorized
guy,
Yeah, I remember that,
Look,
right.
this guy had his finger on the pulse of America. He kind of had an idea.
Wait a minute, he did Xanadu.
That's somebody.
Look. John and I are saying I'm not necessarily.
Hang on a second.
John is going on.
Hang on a
about
second.
the movie.
I'm like
just
dangling on the corner here. I'm not from us fully
But
saying it.
the
but-
soundtrack is really great, guys.
Yeah,
And, you know,
but
you throw
You're
Paul
defending a
McCartney.
soundtrack that never happened. That's a new one for
Right.
you.
It could have been what it could have been.
It could have been. But,
you have
but-
some great people.
but listen
Olivia
to
Newton
this.
John, Paul McCartney. Hello, he was the a Beatle. Hello,
Yes,
He was one
I'm
of the
familiar.
Beatles. Yeah.
I am familiar. I saw their cartoon.
I said he
It
was a
very-
Beatle.
He was a Beatle.
Yeah. As Alan Partridge said, he's talking about bands that he likes, and he talks about Wings. And a younger kid goes, "Who were Wings?" And he goes, "Oh, only the band the Beatles could have been."
Ouch. But I gotta say, Live and Let Die is pretty.
Oh, I love. Oh, no.
yeah.
I just watched part of Live and Let Die, and I was like, "Wow, this is a horrible James Bond movie." But what a good
I
soundtrack!
do love that
Great
movie, but
soundtrack.
that's a whole nother show.
It's a different James Bond.
It is a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
different James
Yeah.
Bond, that's for sure. It's the first.
It's
James,
no Moonraker, but you know,
Well, what is?
It's the first Bond film I saw in the theater.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I do love Live and Let Die.
Yeah, me too.
But this cracks me up about this movie. So apparently Stan Lee drafted an outline for the film, so we're already kind of in trouble.
Got Stan Lee and Lee Kramer.
Yeah.
Two Lees.
And he borrowed from blaxploitation films,
Wow.
according to my research. And apparently there was, at one point in the script, the surfer gets captured by a tall man in fancy clothes named Sweet Daddy Wisdom, who says, "Oh, Sweet Daddy's gone and caught himself the world's choice prize. He's captured the ultimate honky."
Where's my Hot Toys figure of Sweet Daddy Wisdom?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Elseworlds.
Right. With real Sweet Daddy hair. It's got to be a real fro or I'm not buying it.
And you can cut
Wow.
it. You can
Right.
cut it. It
But
grows
that-
out. And
It's
you
like a
can
chia
cut
pet.
it.
It
chia-
comes with
like
5
a
different
chia
legs.
Sweet Daddy.
You'd be like,
Wow. Well, this
That's
is that
pretty
time like in the 80s, you know, when canon films could do no wrong. I mean, they're like.
Well, they could do no right,
They could
really.
do no right. They thought they could do no
Yeah,
wrong. They were
no, they were
buying
just
up
pumping 'em out,
They were
you know?
spending
It's
money
like-
here and there. They're going crazy. There was, of course, they were going to do their version of Spider-Man.
yeah.
And Toby Hooper was attached to it for a while as the director.
Joe Zito as well. I mean, there's like.
Leslie Stevens was the screenwriter, and it didn't happen. But also, then I think soon after that, James Cameron was going to do a version.
Yeah,
of
he wrote a
Spider-Man.
scriptment.
Yeah,
And yeah, nothing happened with that
and
either.
also canon they were going to do Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Winner, who directed like the original Death Wish, he was going to do it. So they were acquiring, Marvel properties at the time too, which they just didn't happen. Like many proposed canon films around that time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the James Cameron one would have been pretty interesting. It would have been R-rated. There was like a lot
Really?
of
It was
sex
Wow.
scenes on top of a building with Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, and it was
Wow.
like,
Excuse me, Black Cat. That's what I'm looking for.
well, I mean, no, but she wasn't in that. It was, but it was definitely like I think it was Electro and Sandman were the two
Oh
villains.
wow, okay,
And
yeah.
the scriptman is interesting. It's online. You could read it.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
just
yeah.
Google it and you could check it out. And I think it would have been cool. And he's the one who came up with the whole idea of like bio.
right.
webbing. So Sam
More
Raimi was like,
biological.
I'll take that idea.
Right.
Which I still like that idea.
I do
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It kind of makes more sense than like a 16-year-old kid who just happened to come up with an incredible way of. Not only did he get bit by a magic spider, but he also designed webbing.
Yeah,
that
the most powerful.
Yeah, the epoxy that
Yeah.
also like that's why
Right.
the new Spider-Man movie makes a little more sense for me, where Tony Stark gives him a cool
I
outfit.
do like that, although I think it's too much Tony. Like it's too much like he's Iron Man now.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. But I do like.
Well,
like,
he was Iron Man, but then he's like, I don't need your stupid suit.
True,
So I mean,
true.
they were able to
That's
combine
true.
a lot of things, but
Yeah.
then you see the Avengers thing, and he's got the Iron suit or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I
So
know. We'll
it's like-
see. But, yeah.
I liked it enough, though.
Yeah.
I know, I like that. Yeah, but like a lot of times when you have like super creative like filmmakers attached to a project that doesn't quite work. I think similar to Burton and Superman Lives, Jodorowsky's Dune, too, which would have made a fascinating movie.
Now, a friend of ours, Steven Scarlatta, was a producer on that film, and Holly and me and Steven have been working on this TV series that's about a whole bunch of movies that never got made.
Oh wow, great idea for a series.
We're still working on it. We're trying to find a home for it, so that's where we're at right now.
So you are on the cusp of this concept.
Yeah, we've
You
shot.
are
We've
like-
shot. We have 6 episodes
Oh,
already
wow.
done.
Because
so,
I mean that had H.R. Giger was involved. And
but yeah,
all
the
this stuff, like-
Jodorowsky's Dune was another one of those. Like when I first heard about that, like
Yeah.
the whatever it was called, Jodorowsky's Dune, I was like, I can't wait to see that movie. And it was like one of those movies, like while I was working on The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, I was waiting for this other film to come out. And then years later, we met the guy who made that film on a panel at San Diego Con. We were both on a panel for both of our films, which was great.
Right.
But John Jodorowsky's Dune is so amazingly interesting because my favorite thing about that film is Jodorowsky. I mean, how he's like, and then I was going to rape them. I didn't even read the book. It was like he's like so blatant with his like disregard of the actual.
I tortured my son throughout his childhood so I could mold him into the role.
But there's something so bizarrely creative about his like. I never read the book. I'm making up all my own things. It's like it's almost like tell me what the book's about, and then I'll do crib notes from what you said, and then I will make up my own 10-hour saga. It was like so ballsy and strange that it makes it almost worth it. Like, look, if, sometimes you read a book and you're like, the movie's never gonna like the David Lynch Dune is not the book.
No.
Good, but I love that movie because it does so many weird things.
It's
Like, it has inner monologue with people like thinking in their brain. What other movies ever done that? None.
Right.
So it's like stuff that he tried. He says it's a failure, but I think it's a masterpiece. But not
It gets
because
more and more
it's
fascinating.
yeah,
also
not
think
because of the book. It's because of its own thing.
I think it's really beautiful. Like I love the design of that universe. I think is really unique.
Very unique. Nobody's ever come close to.
Never seen
nothing else like that movie.
Yeah, every world
Certainly
is
prior to
completely
that.
different.
Yeah.
The fact that you have this imperial court design on even the spaceships to the point where actually at one point I think I had the plastic model kit of one of those ships because I just thought they were so unique and strange.
Yeah, I thought the Emperor's bizarre, weird golden spaceship is so out there. You're like, that is some. I guess if Donald Trump, eventually like fully lost it, like he's already like a toddler, baby, insane person. But if he fully loses, he'd be like, build my spaceship on the moon, and it's got to have all gold toilets. Like it's literally like a spaceship made of golden toilets and constantly ejecting shit from every orifice is just. Constantly ejecting shit. It's like, oh, Donald Trump is up on his stupid golden toilet moon base, fucking shitting again. Yeah. Like he's like some baby toddler. Where's my cereal?
Speaking
that's
of
what should happen.
Speaking of Trump, the Baron in that.
Oh, Baron!
Wow!
Oh my God!
He
most
controls the
amazing
spice,
scenes.
controls the universe.
Yeah, it was like getting lanced and all this horrible stuff, like with heart plugs and like bizarre scenes. You're like, I don't even know if that was in the book where it's like just pulling the kid's heart plug and bathing in oil.
Yeah.
You're like, this shit is fucking fantastic.
And it's Sting's finest role.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, well, I would say Brimstone and Treacle.
Treacle's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I wouldn't talk about The Bride ever, really.
Or,
No.
Yeah, and he's good eye candy and Quadrophenia.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a couple of, but that's his standout role for sure.
But it's interesting though because Lynch's Dune though at the time was a huge bomb. It was like this folly. Oh my gosh, and everybody hated it. It was like, but it's grown.
It has a
the
cult
appreciation
following.
has grown now to it. But at the time, I mean, and that's after Jodorowsky was trying to do it.
But see, here's the funny thing: because the film, I'm one of the people who I saw it. I didn't read the book, and I enjoyed it. But it just developed this cult following. That's why I thought this other film was going to happen, because I thought what was going to happen is there was enough interest in Dune that, maybe with a different director, we'll take another shot at it. That's what I thought. But it never.
This was previous to.
The
Jodorowsky, the 10-hour version with Mick Jagger. You're like, can I please go back in time and see this movie? I want to see this so desperately. Like Salvador Dali, like they were paying him by the minute or something.
That's
it's
right.
like, so
to hang out.
I know, and it's like, and then the disdain for Douglas Trumbull. I mean, for some of the things that you like, just that you get from that documentary, it's so amazing. Where it's just like, he was not with me, I was not with him. You're just like dismissive because he was like, well, I'm going to want to try some of my own things. You're gone.
So I'm sorry, John. So what's the name of this documentary?
It's called Jodorowsky's Dune.
Okay.
Jodorowsky, who did El
Santa
Topo.
Sangre, El Topo, Holy Mountain.
Holy Mountain.
So many amazing Freako films.
Crazy
And
movies.
they're always just visually stunning.
So different
And that was the
so
one
bizarre.
thing that made me think of your film too, which is the incredible amount of this pre-production artwork.
Yep.
To the point where Jodorowsky had this book that he would bring to anybody he was, talking about the film to, and it was this. I mean, it's a giant book full of
that thick, and it's like all Mobius storyboards. I actually got to flip through it, and it's like it's one of those things. But Taschen Books was gonna make a version of that, and I was like, when?
When? Yeah.
When? And they're like, no, we're not doing it. I was so disappointed because they really should make it. It's a piece of art.
Yeah, it's about 4 inches thick.
Yeah, it's
Like,
literally every page has about 20 little storyboards that are about that big each, penciled by Mobius. Some are more detailed than others, but all of them, none of them are like stick figures. They're
But
all
there's
like
paintings too, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm just talking about just the storyboards alone.
Right.
The entire film is storyboarded from beginning to end. Then there's like Giger artwork for Baron Harkonnen's Gede Prime. There's just a ton of character designs that Mobius did of just each character, like full color turnarounds.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of art.
Stunning.
Foss, the spaceship artist guy, did a ton of fucking crazy. Literally looks like any one of his. Oh yeah, when you could tell. That's a Foss spaceship. There's a million of them. So that's one of the ones that's actually on the cover for Jodorowsky's Dune is a spaceship.
I remember seeing some of that pre-production artwork in like Starlog. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's coming soon.
Well, that's we're all old enough to like. That's what I was raised on was Cinefantastic, fantastic
same
films,
here.
Starlog.
Yep.
It's like I remember my mom was like, "What are you doing?" I borrowed this lady's cigarettes so I could create a fog machine with a blow dryer and like 5 cigarettes. She was like, "I didn't know you were gonna waste my cigarettes just for no reason." I wasn't even filming anything. I had just read like it was not Cinemagic.
Cinemagic, yeah.
I love Cinemagic.
Learned how to
I still
build
have
your
my
own
issues.
spaceship.
Yeah,
Same here, man.
Yeah.
Couldn't tear that shit away from me.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Cinefex.
Cinefex
is
is later, but more sophisticated versions.
Yeah, Cinefex is one of those, like, I think my first issue of Cinefex was the second issue, was the Empire Strikes Back one.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then I became like, oh my God, this is like, why I liked it when I was a kid, though, is because they had pictures from the film that were not in any of the other magazines.
Yes, right.
It was always like direct, it was like, did they strike that shit from the negative? Did they make a deal with Satan?
Yeah.
How did they get these pictures? Like, the Tron issue is like the Blade Runner
Blade Runner.
issue.
That was my
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Now
you don't-
that Blade Runner issue is $400.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you don't have issue number 1?
I do not have number 1. I have the second one.
Do you have it?
I do.
Issue 1
should
is
sell it.
Is it the one with the tauntaun on the cover?
No.
Is it the one with the?
number 1 is Star Trek: The Motion Picture
I
and
do
Alien.
not have that. Right? No,
Yeah.
I don't have that
I wonder
one.
how much that's worth.
Couple hundred.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, because I just bought number 2 at a convention for like $20.
Oh,
Which
okay.
it was like, look,
Yeah.
I mean, I like I don't care if it's in pristine, whatever.
Yeah, you
I
just-
also have
Whoa,
it
whoa,
digitally.
whoa.
I know, like mint in plastic or what is that? MIP? Yeah, it's like because what are you gonna do with a magazine? I'm just going to look at the cover.
You're just going to brag about it
Yeah,
instead of
right.
actually
Like,
reading it.
I bought like Cinefantastique number 1, 2, 3, 4 recently over the last like 3 or 4 years. That's what was my like. I'm gonna get all of the Cinefantastique because those are the some of the greatest articles. Like
Although-
we live in a
like
culture
real
where people
articles.
don't understand how to read articles. Now it's like I can't read more than 2 paragraphs. I was like, no, motherfucker, this is 5 pages.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
In-depth
Yeah.
article on,
And of course, I read the article now and it makes sense, but the Cinefantastique issue on Logan's Run, because I was gaga for Logan's Run
Sure.
at the time, and they hated it. And I remember just being like, you don't know anything. And then, and then you read it now and you kind of go,
He was right. You know what's horrible? Like if you watch the Blu-ray of Logan's Run now, when you see Box, you could see the dude's mouth.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
I am a robot. Like, I can see your lips through the robot mask.
But you know, it's
I
still,
see you,
John,
Roscoe Lee
I
Brown.
know.
John,
so
it's
bad.
still cool, man. It's
No,
it's
still-
the
I still-
first
such an
45
affection.
minutes I absolutely love. Once they go and visit Old Man Kentucky,
It's kind of
bibbing with his cats and stuff,
There's
I'm
kind
out.
of, yeah.
But it makes
I'm
sense.
out.
It makes sense
It's
that
a-
cats would
No, but
live
it's
there.
boring. I'm just saying I'm bored
it's a
with
soft third act, yeah.
Yeah,
Very- and then
definitely
they're
the
like,
City of Domes
the
is
kids
the
all
best
coming
stuff.
back, and there's like 40 minutes of explosions, really bad ones too. Like you ran out of money, so now it's like overlays of bad stuff. It's like just the bad special effects where you're like, even as a kid, you're like, that's cheesy. Because I remember seeing Logan's Run as a kid, and I was like,
yeah, me too.
I like the floating fucking carousel shit scared the shit out of me. But
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
Like towards the end, it was not fun anymore. It was like, oh, when's this gonna end? And then they're all waiting at the end with the water and the cats. You're like, oh god, oh, can I see Soylent Green again? You know? At least that had a cool ending, you know.
Old man. All right, we're going to leave you here while we go back in and finish the movie. I love that. That's beautiful.
Okay. All right. So now here's another movie though that you're probably familiar with, as far as maybe more interesting the making of the non-making of.
Zardoz? No, I'm just
no,
kidding.
Zardoz.
Oh, don't get me started on Zardoz. I love Zardoz.
I love Zardoz.
Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau.
Sure. No, that's a great
documentary.
great doc.
Lost
I
Soul,
found that doc, though, unfortunately, kind of it lost its focus, just like probably the movie did when he became Dog Boy. like I love the first 30 minutes of it, and then all of a sudden it goes off on a weird tangent where I was like, I don't even
Going
know
into
what
his like mysticism.
Well,
and all
no,
that,
even
and-
after that, then it was like Fairuza Balk, and they're talking about the movie, and it just went off on this weird like bizarre tangent for almost 30 minutes. Right. I mean, if you watch the movie again, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like after he leaves and he's doing Dog Boy, he's like, I'm living off my pot and I'm living off the land. And then they're talking about making the film without him for like 30 minutes. And I was like, where is this movie going? I don't even know what the fuck's happening anymore.
But his version of Moreau would have been interesting to see if he really got to do and had the budget to make his version of it.
He's still, like, I ended up running into him at Monster Palooza. And he's a big fan of Metalocalypse, and I loved hardware.
Wow.
So we ended up like geeking out together.
And Dust Devil is
one of my
great.
Dust Devil is
Yeah.
great. And we ended up hanging out. We went out and had dinner, and he's got all of these crazy drawings for a new version of the Island of Dr. Moreau. They're
Like Mouse
Wow.
today.
yeah, like a newer,
my
revised
gosh.
version, and it's
Wow.
totally out there. It's like super out there. So I was like, man, good
do
luck,
it.
good
Yeah.
luck in getting that money, son. You know,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
because it's not safe. I mean, it's like now, like when you go and meet people, like for meetings and stuff, you're like, they're like, well, what's it like? It's like, well, it's like this hit movie and this other hit movie. No, it's not. It's totally insane, and you'll probably lose all your money. Can I have $1 million? No. So it's like pitching now is a lot harder than it's ever been.
Sure,
unless
sure.
you're talking to streaming services.
Why not go to Tommy Wiseau? that would be a nice pairing, I think.
The Island of Dr. Moreau, starring Tommy Wiseau. The Island of Dr. Wiseau. There we go. That's a movie I want to see. That's not a bad idea. That guy has all this money from the weird like million buckled pants that he sells in San Francisco or whatever. I don't know where he gets his money, but
Nobody does.
Yeah, just have him play Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, really.
All of you guys have mentioned movies that there was actually some kind of process done where there were scripts or something and there was artwork and stuff.
Right.
But there was a film that it was incomplete. And I always thought that there was going to be a second one, but because it came at the tail end of the sword and sandal type films, it never went into doing the second half. And I'm talking about Jason and the Argonauts. Now, we all know Jason and the Argonauts
Sure.
With Ray Harryhausen, all the special effects. Well, if we remember, the film doesn't end with an ending. What happens is, Jason goes on this quest to go get this golden fleece. So you go through the whole movie to get this golden fleece. What he's supposed to do is he's supposed to bring the golden fleece back to his homeland and kind of claim his kingdom. Well, they never do that. Basically, the film kind of ends with him getting the golden fleece, and the gods actually say, well, I'm going to clear... Well, Hera says, well, I'm going to clear the board, and Zeus says, no, the game is not over. It continues. And so I always... This is, I didn't see the film until, I was much older, like in the 70s, but I thought, where's the second half of Jason and the Argonauts? I was waiting for that film, and it was never made. And my understanding was, as great as the film was, as great with the skeleton battle, and everyone says this is one of Harryhausen's finest pieces of work, the film didn't do as well as Columbia had hoped, so that's why they never continued, which is really a shame. Now I know that there was like a Jason and the Argonauts, kind of like a CGI version that was done, but it just
there's a
wasn't-
miniseries, I think.
Miniseries, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, they
And
just
that's-
went off and did like 18 Sinbad movies.
Yeah, exactly.
afterwards.
So this was the film that I'd always hoped that there would be a Harryhausen-esque type second half, but never
Right.
happened.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, no, that I would have loved to have seen that.
If that
'Cause
happened
that's-
back then,
Yeah.
I probably would have loved it because I watched all of those
Yeah.
Mysterious Island, anything that was stop motion.
Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Yeah.
Well,
That was cool.
And Argonauts was my favorite.
Yeah. Speaking of aborted Harryhausen projects, though, one thing that's still they have not done is a definitive version of War of the Worlds, according to H.G. Wells' novel. And there was, for a while, Harryhausen was going to do a version of War of the Worlds with
The pods.
Yeah.
and the tentacle monster. And there's
Yeah.
even test footage he did
Yes.
of,
Yes.
of Martian coming out of a ship, and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean,
It's
what listeners need to understand, and some people do, like the film that was made in the 50s, okay, so it took place in present day. At that time, they updated it. But the actual story takes place in a different time. where it's not like industrial.
It was like the 1800s, right?
It was like
Or-
industrial revolution
Right,
kind of
right.
thing. So imagine these kind of pod type things, and with these giant long legs, how cool that would be. Now Spielberg did try to do his version of it
Yeah, it's
in a
not the
more
same, though.
contemporary way, but how
do a
cool-
period piece.
How
Yeah.
cool would it have been to do a period piece?
And
Yeah.
steampunk is so popular. I would
Yeah.
think that
Yes.
would be
Right.
kind of a natural.
Well, I think from what I understand is Harry Hodgson took around pre-production drawings to various people, and I think he even approached George Powell.
Yeah.
At the time, George Powell didn't want him involved or whatever, or something. But so George Powell obviously ended up doing his own version,
Yeah.
which was a contemporary version for the time, which is
is
still a great movie.
yeah. Still
great,
but
yeah.
it wasn't what Harry Hodgson had in mind, and I think we still have yet to see.
Well, Harry
that.
Housen
That-
always had problems because he wasn't like technically the director. He was
Right,
the
right.
Exactly.
animation director.
Right.
But if you look at all of his films, there was always somebody else covering
Exactly.
principal photography.
Right.
So, I mean, that's
He
like
was at the mercy of
But the
that.
funny
Yeah.
thing is,
Even
we
though
don't
we
say
refer
we
to it
don't,
as our
we
Harry
don't say
Housen
it's a
film,
Nathan
it's
Duran
not.
film.
No,
it's like
right,
we
that's
call
right.
it a Harry
Yeah.
Housen.
every
film.
single Harry Housen film is a Harry Housen film.
Right,
So,
right.
That's true.
And that's because it seems like it was like an afterthought. It was like we're not looking at the shots of like, wasn't that cool the way that guy walked up to that door? It's like because it's not really the movies are not they're not really well written. None
Sure.
of them are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
they're just right.
all of
They're-
them are like
they're
sort of like
excuses
I'm on
for
an
cool
island.
special
Where?
effects.
What are we gonna do? A crab attack.
Well, that was
weirdness.
the-
There's a giant bee. There's a bird. It's like literally you're being
Yeah.
attacked by shit all fucking, and then it's
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
Well, actually,
that's
Mysterious
right.
Island was a very popular book when it came out, and that's the whole reason why Charles Schneer got the rights to that. So there is a little more.
And I would argue that I would
Look,
argue
there's meat on all of them. There's more meat on all of them except for the Yimmer or whatever, that 25,000.
Emir.
20 million.
it's
Yeah.
it's a standard.
No,
kind
but
of
I love
creature.
that
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
and,
I love it.
and
I love
you're
that.
like, you kind of don't want the creature to die at the end. Like all good horror
Yeah.
monster movies, you're like, don't stop shooting at it. Or
I would
whatever,
argue that
It's
the
like-
Golden Voyage of Sinbad is actually a pretty well written movie.
Yeah,
with
I
some
like them a
very
lot.
unique.
Is that Barbara Bach?
No, that's
Caroline Munro.
Caroline Munro.
Oh, Caroline.
and it's and John Philip Law, and
Yeah,
that-
they're just
and-
great.
And
Tom Baker is
Yeah.
the bad
the
guy.
wonderful Tom Baker as the villain.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
right.
good one.
But those
that's a really
those
good
are
one.
finished films. That, I mean, Harry Housen, he dabbled in so many really
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
concepts. But I always wanted that Jason and the Argonauts. The second
Yeah,
half.
that would be cool.
I want to bring up the very first guest we ever had on this podcast was an independent producer named Jeff Gross. And he was just
That's right.
finishing the sequel to one of the worst movies ever made, Birdemic. He did a movie called Birdemic: The Resurrection. It was an
God.
interesting story because he had to do it in a faithful way to please the people who were fond of the
What
first
was the
movie.
dude who made the first movie? What was his name again?
James Wynn. He was a Vietnamese.
Right, no, I met him
director.
because unfortunately I went and saw Birdemic because everyone was like, "It's so horrible." Come on, I was like, I'm not into this seeing a shitty film thing, but I went and I saw it at Cinefamily, and the sound. I mean, it's so bad that I had to leave like for 2 times because every time those stupid fucking shitty birds were like, crow, like whatever they were doing, it was like, here's regular audio level, and every time they'd show up, it was like this. So it was like literally, I felt like my ears were bleeding.
Right.
And it's like, you saw the film. It's like 3 shots, like a badly composited thing of movie. And you're like,
Yes.
I got to get the fuck out of here. I'm going to murder someone.
You feel like you're just wasting your time. Your life
Yeah.
is like passing before you.
horrible.
I know,
I mean, I would rather see The Room 500 times
Well,
than see Birdemic ever
He
again.
did get the sequel made, and his next he got out of the movie business, but his next
Good.
his next project was going to be to give money to James Wynn, Tommy Wiseau, and the director of Troll 2, and say, okay, you can
God.
each make a 30-minute short, and he was going to put it together as an anthology called Triple Threat.
I would call it triple dump.
Well, John, I believe you'll be making the Death of Birdemic 2. What happened?
You mean when I go to hell? And that would be and the devil would be like, your first assignment. And I'd be like, no. But that's me as Darth Vader at the end. No.
It never happened, probably for the best, but he was
It's an
involved.
interesting idea, though.
Well, I love
Yeah.
Troll
the
2.
concept.
Troll
Who
2
directed Troll 2?
Oh,
Because I'm like, I know Sonny Bono was in the first Troll, and Troll 2 is like the worst
Right,
movie.
right.
Yes.
I think it was like a husband and wife team who were like vegetarian.
Claudio Fragrasso.
Right. And I remember because
Russ.
I saw Best Worst movie, and that was a lot of fun.
That's
That
a
is
great
that
movie.
is
Yeah.
great.
That's another one of those like disaster artist type movies, but it's
Yeah.
like
But a documentary,
realistic, a documentary. In fact, I really liked that guy's second film, which was all about the house hunter, like the people who make I can't remember what it was called, American Scream. That's what it was called. called.
Oh, okay.
That's
yeah.
the guy who was
Made
the
Best
kid
Worst
actor,
Movie.
made Best Worst
Okay,
Movie, made
right.
American Scream, which is fantastic.
And is that doing like haunted houses?
Yeah,
around?
haunters.
Okay.
He would just went and
yeah, okay.
and hung out with about 7 different haunters.
Wow.
And just
I have not seen that. I will.
It is so good.
Okay.
It's so enjoyable, especially this father-son duo. They are so enjoyable. Like I was like,
Right.
is there the special features where I can watch it 2 hours of the father-son and just their weird interactions about trying to make stuff with paper mache? I was like,
That's what you and your daughter
Bizarre,
should do,
you know?
Larry.
Yeah.
You should create like haunted houses. Does that seem like it would be perfect for you and
Yeah, that sounds like something that would be a lot of fun. I think so. Yeah.
So, anyway,
Hey,
Jeff,
don't just jump on that concept so
well,
quickly.
I'm sure Jeff Gross has a sense of humor because if he was going
Oh,
to
he
if he was
does.
going to tie these
right.
3
Yeah.
weirdos
Totally.
together,
Oh, yeah.
like he was
No.
obviously like, I made Birdemic too.
No,
It's like
he's-
it's horrible garbage bragging rights where that's why we're like,
he's
I made the
saying-
second
yeah.
shittiest movie ever.
it was like the producers, because while he was going at it, it was like, well, he didn't want to make it too good. It had to be as bad as the first
Right.
one. But before he ever got involved in that, he was trying to get financing for Joe Dante's pet project. The Man with Kaleidoscope Eyes, which
Wow.
was a
yes.
screenplay that Dante had written about Roger Corman making the trip.
The trip.
Right,
and,
right.
and having his own acid trip to be able to make it authentic.
I want to
Right.
see that.
Yeah.
I want to see
It's
that movie.
it's a great script.
Is it something that's still being
Tell Jeff
possibly
Gross to
being
get
made?
out of semi-retirement, stop making garbage films, and make that movie.
Yeah.
Well,
All of us want to see that movie.
Yeah.
Cinefamily a year or two ago actually did a tribute to that project, and they had a reading, and I think Bill Hader played Corman in the reading.
Wow. I like
But
that.
The project has been resurrected, and it might be, but when Jeff was working on it, they were talking about, there's a scene in the script where Peter Fonda goes to a film festival with his dad, and they were talking about Peter playing his dad in the film.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Either him or John Sayles. 'Cause
I love it.
Sayles
Good.
sort
Do
of
it.
looks
Go.
like,
Make it.
and they
No.
were talking about who might play Corman, and I suggested Brendan Fraser because at the time he had already worked with Dante, and I thought he sort of had a Corman look. And I also brought up Tim Robbins, and then I heard that they had talked to Tim Robbins about it, and I wondered, hey, was that because I suggested it, or
Tim
that was
Robbins
just-
would be great as Roger Corman. That's a
Yeah,
good idea.
yeah.
He would have been, even though he was older, even at the time.
I could see that. Yeah, it's not the face, but it's like he could do
Yeah,
the
he had
manner.
that-
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Well, you brought up the girl with kaleidoscope eyes, which is
The Man
a
with
line.
Kaleidoscope Eyes.
Was that the man with kaleidoscope
Man-
Right, the
eyes?
Yeah.
Beatles is like the,
Beatles.
girl with
Yeah, well,
kaleidoscope. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well,
the
that
Beatle.
The Beatles.
not familiar. Not familiar. But speaking of the Beatles, from my research, I found out, and I had no idea that this was ever something that anyone had ever thought of doing, but the Beatles wanted to do their own movie version of Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yeah, and they
Are
were
you
they were
serious?
very far along in
Oh,
doing
yeah?
it. Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
And to the point where they wanted to get Kubrick to direct it.
Oh my
gosh.
God.
And we don't know, there's no evidence really of how interested he really was. He eventually turned it down, so he wasn't that interested, but even if he entertained it for a while.
Boy, the
But-
Tolkien, the
Yeah,
Beatles,
the
Kubrick.
casting was going to be Lennon would be Gollum. Which I love.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney would be Frodo.
All right.
Ringo Starr would take on Sam, and George Harrison would be Gandalf.
Really?
Yeah.
Which
I
they
can-
actually saw themselves in this.
Considering if you have to cast from the Beatles, that's pretty good casting.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
I
like,
wonder-
how would they round out the rest of the cast though?
Well,
they've got
George
the Beatles.
Martin.
You know,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
you know what I think?
Stu
You know what?
Pete Best finally back.
John, I see a pattern here. I think what they would have done is, remember, the Beatles were huge, and they were surrounded by other great musicians of the time, of those 60s.
Sure.
I bet someone like Mick Jagger would have had a role. David
Right.
Bowie would have had. No.
Eric Clapton.
I'm
Yeah, you're right.
I'm thinking they would have gotten their friends who are all musicians or rock stars.
Absolutely right.
And they would have, hey, this is something that the Beatles are doing. I want to do it. You know, and they would have been in it. Don't you
Although,
think?
you know, it
You're
could-
laughing at me.
It could have ended up
it's
like
awesome.
it could have ended up like Son of Dracula, though. Let's face it.
Oh, well.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard. It's
Nielsen movie.
It's hard to tell. I mean, like you know, I remember reading about that a couple weeks ago. It was like, oh, the Beatles were going to do a Lord of the Rings thing. I didn't read any further about them playing in the thing.
Playing in it.
But when you think about Yellow Submarine, you're like, oh, you know,
I can see that.
they had a lot of fun with it. And, you know, they were like, did you guys know about the Yellow Submarine movie that Robert Zemeckis was getting prepared?
No. What's this?
Yeah, so Image Movers, which was his company that they had just done Beowulf.
Yeah.
There is so much incredible artwork designed for the Yellow Submarine, all 3D movie.
like a live action.
No, 3D.
But
Like
3D.
like
3D.
Beowulf. Like,
Oh, okay,
that kind of
okay,
stuff.
okay.
Computer
All
generated.
computer generated.
Okay.
Same music?
Same music.
Okay.
It's astonishing. And the saddest thing about it is because of the way a lot of companies war with each other, you know, there's like aggressive buyouts, and
Yes.
you'll see these kinds of like friendly buyouts, like Disney absorbing 21st Century Fox.
Yes.
So then you hear about, well, there's, you know, the sad part of acquisition is redundancy.
Yeah.
And the idea of what a redundancy is, you and your job is a redundancy because we already have 5 studios that make 3D animation. We don't need your studio, Blue Sky. So I feel like Blue Sky that just put out Ferdinand,
Yes.
that unfortunately I feel will probably be a redundancy where they're going to absorb like maybe half of Blue Sky and then all the rest of those people will be let go.
Wow.
And that's the unfortunate thing when you have these kinds of, but it won't happen for 12 to 18 months because, you know, as these kinds of things take a long time, but that's what they're talking about when you hear that word. Well, redundancy, that's just the weird corporate term of like, we're shelving all these people's jobs.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Image Movers, Robert Zemeckis' company, because John Lasseter from Pixar was pissed. He was like, I don't want to be competing with that company. So they did a hostile takeover. Wow. They did an aggressive thing where they just fucking buckled Image Movers by the legs, and all their productions were canceled.
So what happens to this particular? It's a project that was alive for a little bit. So
Oh, yeah.
it just
And it's
basically
just done?
die.
It's
Dead.
Done.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I've got a bunch of friends who worked on it, and I was like looking at the artwork, and I was just like, I was considering possibly doing that as an episode.
It's a great idea,
mean,
too.
it's,
A really good idea.
Was it similar to the style of artwork from the movie, the original movie, or was
not
it
at
very
all. It was
different?
not
Do their
like
own
Peter
thing.
Max. It
Not
was
like
its
Peter Max?
own thing. I mean, this was
Really?
like, I mean, the Blue Meanies had these crazy giant weapons and like fucking super cool guns, and you had the
Great.
apple thrower guys who looked completely crazy different. I mean, it like literally was like its own full universe.
Which is probably, I mean, if you're going to do it,
you're gonna do it,
its
you gotta do
own
something different.
vision.
Yeah, the submarine.
That sounds
Justified.
great.
The submarine
though.
was fantastic. It looked a little bit like that original Yellow
Yeah.
Submarine, but it was very much super updated. They had a full 3D version I could rotate around and look at. It was like, you know, I mean, those are things where you're like, you know, when you hear about that, you're like, wow, that sounds cool. Well, wait till you see it. And you're like looking through this production art, you're like, you get angry. You're like, fuck, that shit exists.
Right,
You know?
right.
So where's the Atragon remake?
The Peter Max version of Atragon.
With Beatles music for no apparent
Right,
reason.
right.
Yeah, just throw it in there. Silver Beatles.
We know, speaking of all the versions of Godzilla, now in the 80s, for a while, there's going to be an American 3D Godzilla.
That's one of my episodes.
Really?
Yeah,
Steve
Holly,
Miner.
Holly and I interviewed Steve Miner, Fred Decker, and William Stout.
Yeah, amazing pedigree there. I mean, Steve Miner had, he had done Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, because 3D, the kind of minor renaissance of 3D at the time.
Yeah.
Fred Decker, screenwriter. William Stout,
Fantastic.
huge, fantastic dinosaur artist.
Conan the Barbarian.
And Dave Allen, I think, was going to do the stop motion animation, right? Was it? Or possibly.
Well, it was a lot of things were like not 100% figured out. I think Dave Allen made the maquette of the Godzilla.
Right. And it was going to be like Godzilla attacking San Francisco, I think, right?
Yes.
Or something?
Yeah. It was. Unfortunately, the bridge got battered up again. There's a lot of San Francisco that people love to blow that place up.
I'm from San Francisco, and I'm on board.
Yeah, so is Holly. She was like, I'm sick of seeing San Francisco. But it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that would have been really fantastic. I think, there's like, a lot of reasons why it did and didn't happen, but
Sure.
I think their hearts were in the right place. I mean,
Yeah.
they were like, basically, they were writing a kind of a Cold War thriller, but with Godzilla.
And at the time, though, it was with Toho's approval, right? Because Toho is known for like being tough with like
Toho
letting
gave
their properties.
Yeah, they gave Steve a limited amount of time, like a couple of years, and it's because he had such success with Friday the 13th in 3D. So that movie made so much money
Right.
that he was all of a sudden getting these kinds of meetings that normally you wouldn't get.
Right.
And Toho was like, all right, well, you know what you're doing, make it in 3D. And so he was like, developing a lot of different kind of cool ways to try to shoot the stop motion Godzilla. I
Yeah.
think it would have looked cool. I mean, the Godzilla that they did have looked very much like a Jurassic park.
More like a
kind of.
dinosaur,
It was
regular.
much like a dinosaur, and it would have been stop motion, probably done with a Go Motion flavor. So Dynamotion or
like
whatever.
like Dragon
out the
Dragon Slayer.
jerkiness.
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
cool.
so it would have
yeah.
had those kind of more modern stop motion techniques. There's no real way around stop motion though. I mean, it's gonna
be
it's gonna look stop motion. I mean,
Right.
even the Tauntauns look like stop motion when you watch them.
Right.
The AT-ATs work great because they're mechanical.
Exactly.
Right.
Just
exactly.
like 3D cars, you're like that. I can't tell if that's real. But Tarkin looks all weird in Rogue One. You're like because the uncanny valley. So I mean, you have always uncanny valley with stop motion. It's always going to look kind of like weird.
Right.
Well, that's kind of why I love it because you see
Yeah, yeah.
the felt or like the fingerprints on.
Always love
all
that.
the things that are wrong
Especially
with
the original
it.
King Kong, you see that a lot. But
That's why
Yeah, but at the time in the early '80s, that still would have been cool to see.
that would have been
it.
cool.
That would have been a cool version.
No,
of it,
I would have been
know.
there without a doubt.
Yeah,
I think
it's too bad.
that would have been fantastic if they were able to make it.
There was a script also by Elliot and Rosso, the guys who had written Aladdin, where Godzilla fought a griffin, a flying lion.
I remember hearing about that too. Yeah,
It never happened, but I
Yeah.
heard their names attached to a future Godzilla project. I don't know if that's going to happen.
there were several really interesting Hammer productions that never made. They were going to do in the '70s. They were going to do their version of Vampirella.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which and that's how Barbara Lee we had
Barbara
on our
Lee on our
show
show.
because they were going to have her in the film, and to promote it, they had her do photo covers on the Vampirella magazine at the time. And Peter Cushing was going to be cast in it,
Yeah, that
and
would've
it was
been
going to
so
be
cool.
that would have been early '70s. Like Hammer was on its kind of like delicate legs. It's not like they were in their last legs,
Right.
But they were going to do a film about the Loch Ness monster called Nessie, and it was going to be a co-production with Toho.
Wow.
And Toho was going to design the dinosaur and everything. But most interesting of all,
Put this Nessie head on. Poor Nakajima.
Now get in the water. I'm drowning. No, just get in there.
I'm 87.
Right.
but there was this film project that I don't think it went beyond a poster, but there was this thing going to be called Zeppelin versus Pterodactyls.
Wow.
I don't
This was
know
going
what.
to-
I don't
that's
know.
what-
Let me guess who wins.
Wait, this is a Hammer film?
I mean, look it up. If you look it up, you'll find photos or find like a poster art. It was going to be like a World War II German Zeppelin gets off course and goes into like a land time forgot thing, and they find dinosaurs and they fight pterodactyls.
Yeah,
that would
and
be
they get-
awesome.
The pterodactyl pops the Zeppelin,
and then it crashes.
everyone dies.
I want to see
Hindenburg too.
Led Zeppelin versus pterodactyls. That's a movie I want to see.
That
Like
would've been
Led
awesome.
Zeppelin magically goes to the land before time forgot. Yeah, they're battling with like guitars. Like the dinosaurs are freaking out. The guitars make them scared. They're like the more Jimmy
Teaching the cavemen.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but if you go, like
You
I said, you can
guys,
find
does anyone remember laughter?
That's right.
there's going to be a more Dr. Phibes movies too. For
Yeah, no, I heard about that. Yeah.
George Romero was attached at one time. to
Really?
direct a new Phibes film in the '80s. That would have been cool.
George Romero was attached to Resident Evil.
Really?
And he actually wrote, he did a commercial for the video game, which is like, the slow zombies and just his regular,
Right,
George Romero
right. style.
And they were like, we love you. Here's some money. Write a script. And they went ahead and wrote this script and spent like a year getting ready to make this Resident Evil thing. And they were like, nah, screw it. We're going to go with somebody else.
Wow,
And it was like,
wow.
he's always got his career was always like, it was a bummer. 'Cause It
Yeah.
was like, for years, he was trying to make all these different
Something other than the
kids-
zombie
No, but
movies,
even
yeah.
like, can you just give him money to make a zombie movie? He couldn't even get funded for a zombie. He would have to
Yeah.
fight for like 6 years to just get Diary of the Dead.
Yeah, and then-
You're like,
and
that
then
was
maybe
kinda
that
fun,
was-
I liked it. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like, I get it. He was like, hey, the kids these days are using those cameras. It's like,
Yeah.
but honestly,
Yeah,
for
it was-
me,
yeah.
I liked it. I was like,
Yeah.
it was better than what was happening after Diary of the Dead, which was like,
Well, he made Island.
Island of
Yeah,
the
I never
Dead.
saw that one.
well, leave it at Diary
Really?
of the Dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just,
Yeah.
I mean,
It was Land of the Dead, I thought was.
I liked Land of the
I
Dead,
did
though.
not.
I mean, it's not perfect.
I don't
but
care.
it's, you know.
I think I don't know. I never thought that he was when it came to storytelling. There's a handful of films where it's great, and then most of it's not. I mean, we all think of Dawn of the Dead and Martin. We forget Knight Riders.
or
Actually,
Bruiser.
Oh, I never saw Bruiser.
I like Knight Riders.
I
Actually,
know. You're a fan of Knight Riders.
I can't believe believe.
Well, Creep Show is one that sticks around, and it's a great one.
I've gone back and forth with Creep Show though. I've come back now to kind of appreciate it now. I mean,
I appreciate it more now than I did, but I'm still not a giant fan.
It's super stylized. Like I like it more now than when it came out.
I agree.
think
I totally
too,
agree.
When it came out, I was like, oh, why does it have that stupid, like, red, weird, fake,
But
not
it's
scary
DC
background?
Comics, though.
Because he's
Yeah.
emulating this stuff.
I actually didn't mind that. My thing was when the Stephen King sequence. You
Yeah, I
know,
know, you hate that
Jordy
one.
Verrill.
The lonely
Judge
death of
John.
Well,
Jordy
yeah, that's the
Verrill.
shittiest part of that
Yeah,
movie.
and
I mean,
I
and no
just
one's
hate
going to argue with you about
But
that.
I don't-
They're like, yeah,
the
that
cockroach one.
Oh, I like the cockroach one.
is
I like that
look,
one.
the cockroach one gets certain people and other people it doesn't.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if you don't like cockroaches, then
So,
that's
if-
gonna freak you the
hey,
fuck
don't
out.
get me
to
wrong.
you.
I love cockroaches.
You're like, give me vampire's kiss. You're like, throw him in the mouth.
Hey,
Throw him in the
one of
mouth.
my favorite movies is the last William Castle movie, Bug,
Oh yeah,
with cockroaches that start fires.
yeah.
Well, that's right. I was
See?
thinking
And
for a
attack
second. I was
Bradford
thinking
Gilman.
about the
Yeah.
Friedkin bug.
Oh,
And
that's
different.
that's a
good
great
one
one, too.
Or
I love that
the
one.
Nest, the Killer
Oh, The
Doctor,
Nest,
Lisa
yeah.
Langlois.
But these are films that were done.
Yes.
These are
Now,
films done.
here's something.
Here's one.
something.
Give us one.
I know, this is probably. I think it's probably in your list because you're Mr. H.P. Lovecraft. There's a big H.P. Lovecraft story that was going to be directed by Guillermo del Toro, and that was At the Mountains of Madness.
Right, exactly.
My understanding is, so del Toro was going to do it. There was some money put into this, but he wanted to make something that was rated R.
Right.
And it was Universal said, whoa. No, I don't want you doing rated R because then the kids aren't going to be able to see it.
Tom
No, no.
Cruise can't be an R-rated.
But
Yeah.
no,
$150 million.
John, you're Mr. Movie here. So wouldn't you agree?
I don't know
that,
if I'd call myself Mr. Movie.
Well, but
Captain Movie.
Captain
Look,
Movie.
look, you and I,
Emperor
we're probably
Movie.
we're probably fans of The Thing. I love The Thing.
Me
John
too.
Carpenter's The Thing. Okay, Arctic. Okay, The Creature. But it was rated R. There's great stuff in this. Great visual
Very
effects.
Lovecraftian. In
But
fact,
yes.
Campbell actually
Yes.
was a contemporary of
Yes.
Lovecraft's, and
But here's my
Stole from him.
logic, John. My thought was I love The Thing. I am one of the people who, when that film came out, I went to theater. I saw
Same here.
it
I
on
saw it
the
in the
day
theater.
one. Day
Oh,
one.
yeah.
And
I saw it that
remem-
weekend.
And dude, I remember looking at the theater. The theater wasn't packed. I'm like, this is a great movie. Where is everybody? And one of the logic.
E.T.
yeah, E.T.
Yes,
ruined
yes.
everything.
Now, E.T. is a good
Stupid
film.
E.T..
Look, E.T. is a
Right.
good film in its own right. But John, also
Should be room
because-
for both.
John, it was also because it's rated R. The kids couldn't go to see it. So
Right.
I understand Universal's logic, but still, how cool would this have been to have such a great?
I Lovecraft in general. I mean,
But $150
still,
million for a R-rated horror film. I mean, The Thing didn't cost $150 million.
No,
and
it
it,
didn't.
and it was
No.
a box office bomb. So it was like
it
where
made
they
$1
were like,
million. It cost like if I remember, it cost $15 million to make, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this is 1982, and it made $1 million that first
Yeah.
week. And
It's a bummer.
Yeah, it
it's
was
a
a bummer.
shame because now it's gone on to be a cult classic.
Sure.
But to give this director, the kind of ability to make something like this, I thought would be great. And now that he's had some success with The Shape of the
Maybe.
Water, maybe I don't know.
Larry,
now
can I
that-
ask you this question? I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, now that it was an R-rated horror film that made so much
Well,
money.
now-
But
nowadays, I
it
think,
cost
yeah.
$150 million to make,
But-
though.
Larry, let me ask you this. Because I also heard that one of the problems, too, with that movie was the fact that Prometheus came out, and Prometheus had similar themes of the origins of mankind, and that's a strong theme in The Mountains of Madness. And look, I'm a giant Lovecraft fan.
Yeah, I know you are.
But I would say that some of his work is hard to adapt because it doesn't necessarily follow the structure of standard storytelling. It works on the page.
Right.
But you'd have to do some jiggling to make it work on screen. And that story is not necessarily my favorite of all of Lovecraft's tales. I think that if Del Toro was going to hit anyone, the one that he should do, which is probably the closest to your standard story structure that works, is the Dunwich horror. Because
that's
the
already
Dunwich...
been done, though.
Huh?
Yeah.
But not correct.
Right.
Yeah, in the 60s, Dean Stockwell, and it's it's what it is. It's not-
The original story of the Dunwich Horror, for one, it's one of the few Lovecraft stories where we actually defeat the creature. So it kind of has a happy ending. There's a lot of carnage and everything else that goes around. But it also has one of the most frightening characters in Lovecraft's work, and that's Wilbur Whately, who is the half-breed offspring of Yog Sothoth and a human woman. And this is my dream film that I would like to see. And if I can just
No, please.
Hey, look,
bear with me.
I love
HP
Dagon, which I thought was great.
I love that movie. That's a good.
That's basically the Shadow over Innsmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very well done.
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah, Stuart Gordon is one of those guys, very underrated film.
We've had him on the show.
Yeah, he's great.
He's great. But just tell me if you don't want to see this movie. There's a scene in the Dunwich Horror where they finally track down Wilbur Whateley, who is this weird half alien creature demon boy who's trying to steal the Necronomicon from Miskatonic University. Every time you would see him walking the street, he had this weird gait and he had like goat-like features.
Okay.
And so no one really knew exactly what was going on with him. He matured very quickly from a baby. At 10 years old, he looked like he was 30. And so in this scene where he's in Miskatonic University, they catch him, dogs attack him, and he's now defeated. He's lying on the ground, and they finally see him for what he is. And this is how it's described in the story. The thing that lay half bent on its side in a fetid pool of greenish-yellow ichor and tarry stickiness was almost 9 feet tall, and the dog had torn off all the clothing and some of the skin. It was partly human, beyond a doubt, with very manlike hands and head and the goatish, chinless face that had the stamp of the Whateleys on it. But the torso and lower parts of the body were teratologically fabulous, so that only generous clothing could ever have enabled it to walk on Earth unchallenged or uneradicated. Above the waist, it was semi-anthropomorphic, though its chest had the leathery, reticulated hide of a crocodile or alligator. The back was piebald with yellow and black and dimly suggested the squamous covering of certain snakes. Below the waist, though, it was the worst, for here all human resemblance left off and sheer fantasy began. The skin was thickly covered with coarse black fur, and from the abdomen a score of long greenish-gray tentacles with red suckling mouths protruded limply. Their arrangement was odd and seemed to follow the symmetries of some cosmic geometry unknown to Earth or the solar system. On each of the hips, get this, deep set in a kind of pinkish, ciliated orbit, was what seemed to be a rudimentary eye. Whilst in lieu of a tail, there depended a trunk or feeler with purple annular markings and with many evidences of being an underdeveloped mouth or throat. Come on!
Right?
Matt, I want to see that.
Now,
You wanna see that.
Is get this in the script as well?
Get
Or did
this?
you just add that? It was like,
No, that's Lovecraft.
Okay.
That's Lovecraft.
He's like, yo, get this, son. Let's check out the. Yeah, sexy, man. I want to see that.
At one point, he says, if I kept reading, he goes, this is going to blow your shit.
But
This is going to make you lose your mud.
I think though today with today's cinematic technology, we could. I think if there's any time that we can kind of fully bring a Lovecraft story to life visually, I think this could be it. You still have to have a director who can guide it and have that right vision. But I think, let's face it, we can pretty much do anything now visually in film. So it's just you just have to be able to,
We were talking about Guillermo del Toro and like how amazing Shape of Water is,
Fantastic.
and I think it works
One of the greatest
really
films of the year,
well,
yeah.
especially because it was made under a constrictive budget.
Yes,
Now it wasn't
yes.
made for under $1 million. It was 19 million, almost
that's-
almost 20 million. So
But
it's
these
like,
days, that's like low
no,
budget.
I know, but it's like, let's be realistic. Like, a low budget movie that's under $1 million. Those are like Blumhouse. Those are like, I'm in a
Right.
house with a bunch of like invisible things chasing me. Those are like not as hard.
We
to
found
make.
this footage.
Right. So, yeah. So, I
right.
mean, with Guillermo, it's like creative filmmaking. He's cutting corners. It makes it a little more.
It makes him try harder,
to-
yeah.
But the risk that a studio has to have is a lot less, and you could do an R-rated film.
Right,
If you
right.
say you even made it 30 million, like it was like I think 38
30,
million,
yeah.
30 million, something.
and it's made a ton of money. It's
Hundreds
like
and hundreds
$800
of
million.
millions. Yeah, so
Something.
I mean, you always have to triple your cost of whatever the budget is. So
And
you're
also-
you're going to spend 90 million with ads and all this other stuff. So you have to make at least 200 million.
And Dunwich Horror, until you get to the big finale, a lot of the stuff you don't even see. It's all suggested or
It's all
talked
kind of
about.
it's like set up as all dread
and even the Dunwich Horror at the end, which is Wilbur Whateley's half brother or twin brother, who escapes and is wreaking havoc across the countryside. He's invisible for the first part of it,
Right.
and they eventually put this powder on him and makes him appear. So you can save that till the end. You don't have to. The rest of it's really just acting and mood.
Right. when you're talking about studios taking that chance on a big budget, a big franchise, and you mentioned Tom Cruise, and talk about movies that are probably not going to happen now. And that's Universal's Dark Universe.
Oh my gosh!
Because
all
The
those.
Mummy came out and did meh. It did okay, but
Did it even do okay,
before
Sean?
The Mummy came out? The plan was to do a kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe approach to the classic Universal monsters.
Right, they had Russell Crowe playing Dr.
Dr.
Jekyll, and
Jekyll.
what was it called?
Johnny-
the Pantorium? Or
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
Johnny
So
Depp was going to be the Invisible Man.
and you're going to have the Bride of Frankenstein. And look, I mean, I
Are these
thought,
still slated to go?
Nope. All of them
no,
are done.
because the Mummy underperformed. So, and I saw the Mummy.
They,
I thought
they shut down the actual wing that had the Universal monsters.
Yeah.
They had,
Wow.
they had
It's
set
a
up all these
shame.
plaques and stuff, and they were like, all these offices will be, let's remove everything and
so terrible.
recreate everything.
Yeah.
And
The
thing
Mummy's
is-
parking spot is
yeah.
over.
and the Mummy,
bandaged up.
and you can see why, because like the Mummy, I thought the Mummy was like, to me, it wasn't like a horrible train wreck, but it was just kind of like, okay, it's.
I couldn't bring
it's
myself to
another,
go see
It's
it.
another, you know what it is though? It's another action fantasy movie. The problem is that it's not horror.
I know, but how
It's-
stupid do
it's
these
like-
people have to be? It's like, well, we've got Universal monsters, and some idiot is like, we'll make it like Marvel movies. You're like,
Yeah, I know,
all right,
yeah.
relax with your weird shared universe. All right, if you're going to do that, make them a shared universe of horror movies.
Well, the thing is,
no horror. It's got to be action
Yeah.
first. You're like, I don't even get it.
You see
Yeah,
the
I
movie.
don't get it.
You know what's not scary is Tom Cruise being thrown across the room by a superhuman female. Like
No.
that's half the movie. Is that?
And
He-
the other thing is it's like I thought at first is Tom Cruise going to be the Mummy? No, he's not the Mummy.
But the
it's
thing
like,
is, though-
and in the preview, it's all Tom Cruise. If you love Tom Cruise, maybe you're going to see that. But there was so little bit of what
and lots of
Mummy
CGI.
was
That
there.
just, and the thing is that people forget though. Universal already did a shared universe of monsters back in the 40s. They
Right.
created maybe the first shared universe franchise with Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula. Like they already did it, and they did it well, and those movies made money.
But,
so
but
it's like-
those are entire different
I know,
group
but-
of people who are in charge.
Oh, I know,
The
I know.
idiots who are in charge now don't understand cinema, let alone horror
I know,
movies.
I know.
So, I mean, you have the werewolf film with Benicio del Toro. That was garbage.
I didn't think it was that terrible.
Horrible.
To be honest,
I think it was a
Really?
horrible movie,
Really?
like stupid, like fighting his dad.
But at least they were trying a
werewolves fighting at
gothic. I mean, no, okay, but like what I'm saying is that it's a shame that
Dracula Untold, another piece of
That's
shit.
garbage. I agree.
I'm just saying,
But,
like
yeah.
every single
No, you're
movie
right,
they've
yeah.
tried to do is a gigantic misfire. It's a misdirection. The producers didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Let's get that star in there. Let's get. It's like, get the
No,
fuck
I know.
out of here.
It's too
man.
bad because like I would have.
Sorry,
I would
I'm
have.
very upset.
No,
obviously.
I
You can
know.
tell.
I like this
I
because
would've-
it should have happened.
Yeah,
That should have happened.
Universal has such a valuable property, and like if they just got somebody like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they got people who knew the comics and knew what they were doing. If they did the same thing with the Universal monsters, I would have loved to have seen a whole new franchise of Universal monsters if it was done
you
well.
know what
It's
I think
like
we're going to
it's-
get now? I think we're going to get like Jason Blum is going to take over the Universal monsters, and we're going to get like
a good idea.
But
Maybe,
I'm not
maybe,
against this.
sure.
We're going to get like a couple of $5 million. We're going to get a House of Frankenstein.
That might be
Yeah,
better.
why
than
Blood
that,
of
yeah.
Dracula, and I'm all in. I would
Yeah,
like to see
yeah.
a bunch of low
I
budget
hope so,
versions,
yeah.
and tie them all together and make a fucking House of Frankenstein weirdo film.
love
Look, I mean
That'd
that's
be great.
better than these
Maybe
stupid
yeah, you're
$100
right.
million garbage action films, which
Yeah.
I'm not going to go see.
No.
You're
So if you want people like who are like into horror films to go see it, speak to them first.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I
It's
hope
like-
so,
But
'cause-
it's the ridiculous morons who have these high powered jobs that are like once
Just
again
don't get it at
zero
all.
connection with the material.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
not that they don't even understand how to read a fucking book and understand storytelling. They just like, look, I put this thing together. I got this one actor interested. It's like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, it's like as far as like from the fans and the people who actually care about this stuff, you're not connecting with them. That's how
Yeah,
I feel about
yeah.
all of these. Like you go from the DC superhero movies, they're not connecting right. As same thing with Universal, they're just not connecting with the material.
Yeah, it's
Now,
a shame.
Do you guys have, as we wrap this thing up, do you guys have like a dream thing of a movie that you would like to see that hasn't been made or was almost made or anything that you would like to see on the screen that we haven't gotten?
I would have liked to have seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Crystal Skull as written by Frank Darabont.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Because
That's a good one.
That script is available online, and
Really?
I think what happened was that Sean Connery just didn't want to be in it,
Okay.
and so they had to write him out and write in the Shia LaBeouf character, which was the beginning.
What a replacement for
the
Sean
beginning
Connery.
of the end, because
Yeah.
that script for me was
For a lot of things.
pretty good read. It actually would have been, I think, the second best movie in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I recommend listeners check that out online.
Now, does it still have the weird aliens at the end?
I don't remember that, but I remember a lot of fun stuff with Karen Allen and some stuff that even evoked like Casablanca. It was a good read. So check it out.
Well, as for me, we talked about this before, and actually John mentioned something. In 1979, Disney came out with The Black Hole, and you go through all the stuff to get to the end where they go through the black hole. And where it kind of ends, I feel like, well, that's not the end. You know, I kind of wanted it to continue, and that's the movie I never got to see. And I know
Maximilian in Hell.
Well, no. See, the funny thing is, I think that I wasn't taking it that literally, you know. But for me, that was Disney's Star Wars at the time. If that film had done phenomenal numbers, I guarantee you there would have been a part 2.
I drew a Black Hole sequel comic book. I'll send you some. Maximilian and Vincent team up against this weird green robot. When once they went through the black hole, they land on a planet that's Earth-like.
Nice.
I got super geeky about that. I was like, I love those characters.
See,
Great,
so we're kindred spirits here. We're on the same page there.
I don't want the dude who made Oblivion to do the black hole.
Oh, me too. I do not want him to go near it.
He's not doing it now. But I'm just saying, it's like that was the last I heard. It was like they're getting that dude, you know, and he's not horrible. I mean, Oblivion was okay. It was like I didn't hate it, and I didn't hate his Tron thing either. I thought it was like it just didn't have it was lifeless.
Yes,
Tron I didn't care. Oblivion I liked more than Tron.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But it's like I think the script of Tron was lacking. Like the visuals were all there.
It looked
like when you saw the trailer,
Yes,
like those fucking new light cycles are cool. But then it's like the story was weak.
No, but I still kind of like it though because it's Tron.
And then Matt, one other film is there was the animated Akira, Japanese film, and I love the way it looked. I had never seen anything like it, and I had heard rumors about. There's been all this talk about doing a live action Akira. I mean, I don't know what.
I saw a fan thing that was pretty cool.
Yeah. But I think it's Warner Brothers that has the rights to it now. But you know they are in so much chaos over there with DC and stuff. I can't imagine them saying, "Oh, well, let's make this live action Akira." You know, something that is. You know, I just don't see.
Can you make it for $1 million? I think everyone at Warner Brothers should start concentrating on making like $1 million movies. Like they should go back to the old school '70s where like let's give 100 dudes and women 100 movies and let's see what the fuck happens. Because it's like obviously their other shit's not working.
Paint me a poster and then write the movie based on that.
Or John, or
just
John,
a title.
Maybe, you know,
Just title.
maybe it's more like you said, maybe a $5 million or like a $10 million. And looking at the movie It, which was only like $39 million, and it's really, really successful. Maybe that's more of the model now. I don't know.
I would love to see that. I mean, I think there's so many talented filmmakers out there. You give them $5 million. I mean, if you do the old school '70s approach, you're just like it's like throwing it at the wall. It's like you would best spend, instead of $100 million on that one movie, you get 20 movies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of nutty.
We had a guy at Playboy.
Yeah.
Who was the editor? He used to do the Wedgie Wednesdays.
Oh yeah. That's Alex Callens.
Yeah.
Alex, he did amazing work.
And and he did these shorts that were really funny for Playboy, and they were always like kind of takeoffs of pop culture movies. He did Star Wars. He did the whole Star Wars trilogy.
Oh, okay.
And they always involved someone getting a wedgie. But they were really clever. I mean, he did a really great job, and he had to get these things in like in no time.
Yeah.
And he did a very good job with using a green screen. But then he would do these short horror films.
Yes, he did.
He'd show Larry and I what he did, and these things look great. He found some good, believable actors, and all the lighting was good, and he was a very good cinematographer. And this guy had nothing, zero.
Yeah.
So the fact that he can do that with nothing, you give someone $1 million, you give someone $100,000, and the type of movie with a good script that they could produce.
Yeah, these kids today, and they use their iPhone. They can make it all on the iPhone.
That's right.
You know?
But that's what I love, and I get annoyed sometimes when people talk about how, all these movies on Netflix are all crap. I go, well, have you watched them? Because I've seen a lot of low-budget ones on Netflix, and some have been crap, but I've also seen a lot of really good ones.
And it's like I said, it's not like the star power. Like that was the big mistake with the Dark Universe thing. Like the first thing that they advertise this is by showing a picture of all the stars.
Yeah.
Like Tom Cruise and like that's not what these movies are. It's
and
like
Sean,
it should be big stuff.
do you know what pissed me off when I saw that picture? Then I find out that the stars weren't there on the same day. they were all composites. And I'm like, I was so
that I
mad.
believe.
No,
Well, yeah,
it
yeah.
made me mad. No, John,
I know,
come
right?
on.
They should have made Johnny Depp like half opaque. They should have been like, I can kind of see the chair behind him. It's all Photoshop, or like maybe Benicio del Toro's head was slightly disconnected, like floating off. Like, are those rivets in the? Yes, he's Frankenstein. They should have had some fun with it.
Yeah,
I-
yeah.
I
Just
love that.
Everything about it was
Horrible
wrong.
Photoshop job because they made Tom Cruise larger than normal. Like it was like he's not really 5'6".
probably
He's
his
like
request.
5'2".
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
He's the amazing colossal man.
That's right.
Yeah,
this is-
it was a shame. It was, everything about that was wrong. Yeah.
I'd like to see Heavy Metal, a new version of Heavy Metal the movie, like an animated
An
version.
animated one.
Yeah, I want to see an animated one. I mean, what we can do now with like the Animatrix was
Oh,
like
okay.
a great sequel
Yes.
to the Matrix,
Yeah.
and I don't want to see the other two Matrixes ever again.
Way
so,
better.
Right,
Like
yeah.
I sold all my Matrix stuff, and then I bought back the original one. I was like, there can be only one. So
Yeah.
the original Matrix is a fantastic movie. I feel like Heavy Metal, it's due. I mean, the last movie came out I think in '81.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which-
so-
and I was not all
Right.
that crazy about that one myself.
was hit or miss.
It's,
It had
it's hit and
elements.
miss.
Yeah.
I think you could do something pretty cool with like 5 new segments.
What I think would be interesting, I would like to see a live action Heavy Metal.
Oh, yeah.
They are doing
Now-
that. Unfortunately, there's a heavy metal series in Europe. It's like Metal
A
Hurlant.
TV series?
Yeah, that
Really?
they did. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how well it did, but it came out a couple years ago.
Animated?
Well, it's Metal Hurlant based off of the Heavy Metal comic. Yeah.
Because how is
not animated, live action.
Heavy metal was pretty well circulated back in the 70s and 80s, as I remember. But is it? I don't see it on newsstands anymore. Is it still a thing?
Yep, it's still a thing.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Grant Morrison is actually the editorial dude right now.
Wow. Cool.
Okay, well, I have one that isn't. This was never on the drawing board, I don't think, at all. This is just a wish fulfillment fantasy movie that I wish was made. That would be a live action, big budget version of the Herculoids.
Nice.
I'm there. I love that
Think
idea.
about it. That was the ultimate coolest
Oh my
cartoon.
God.
You had
Like-
Gloop, you had Gleep,
Yeah.
you had a weird
Zoc,
rhinoceros.
Igu, Tundro. Yeah. I mean, I could see it though because you have like it could be like astronauts in a spaceship. They
Right.
they go through some time or whatever. They land on this planet and there they meet Xandor and Tara and Dorno and all the Herculoids. And then some other alien race comes in. They have to fight. And come on,
I want
Like,
it-
now
but-
you could realize those creatures today.
But
You could
actually,
see those.
no, you're
And
right.
they're all so cool
Yeah.
and they're all so different and crazy and the Alex Toth design. Oh my
but
god, that'd be
played
awesome.
deadly serious.
Yeah, not campy. You don't put
R
yeah.
is there?
Well, I don't know. If
what's between what's between R and X?
PG-13.
Right.
And
Well,
no,
maybe, yeah.
let's be serious here. I mean, I
And not put a comic in the movie.
No, I
Don't
know.
be a,
like,
like,
yeah,
but-
put Chris Rock in there.
yeah, no.
Hey,
Played
Play it
straight.
serious.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Played
a serious adventure. Like it's
Yeah.
a realist. I mean, that'd be awesome.
I don't know, man. That's a hard one because I mean I love the Herculoids, but like if you're like you'd have to have a little bit of fun to it. Like
sure,
you can't
okay.
make it like it's really serious. It's called the Herculoids. You're like what? That's like Master of the Universe, and you're like, what's the dude's name? He-Man. You're like
Right.
like yeah, like instantly you're like, just call him Prince Adam. Don't call him
The
He-Man. It's
but
already
He-Man's stupid, but the Herculoids that makes sense.
right.
You can
Because
have
they're
some humor,
Hercu and
but, like-
Lloyds.
Yeah, they're Herculoids, right? No, I love the design of the creatures. I think
yeah.
it's a hard one for me to like. I
Yeah.
can't really. I mean,
No, I want-
They're Land of the Lost, and it's like yeah,
Okay.
No,
No,
I want a
no.
David Mamet
Yeah.
script.
No, no.
I want it to be
American
fucking-
Buffalo, but with the
John,
creatures.
I want a Mario Puzo
John, just really
script.
quickly, the Land of the Lost. We all grew up with that. And
Same here.
if you remember the TV series, it was very serious. And
Yeah, Chaka. I remember
no,
that shit.
but it
Those
pissed
time
me
crystals,
off. Yes,
fucking
but it pissed
snacks.
me off that when the movie is made, it's this
Nah, that was
comedy.
terrible.
Yeah.
I think that the Land of the Lost, and they missed that opportunity.
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
would have made it serious, it could have been so cool.
Well, here's another one along the line. It's on Johnny Quest, a live-action Johnny Quest set in the '60s when the cartoon was.
Now that
During
one
the
you
Cold
could do
War.
a little tongue in cheek.
Yeah, but it would be
Yeah.
like an adventure, but like
Be like
I'm
a James
surprised nobody
Bond kind of
of,
thing,
but like
yeah.
but serious though. But you could have humor, but like that's a great adventure.
They should do a
story.
live action Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I mean, like it would start with Space Ghost. Like, just hire George Lowe. He's not that busy right now. Just put him in the Space Ghost outfit, and he's fired. Like it's literally that's how it begins, and it's just like 2 hours of him like bumming out at like coffee houses. Like, people are like, Space Ghost, what's wrong? He's like, I just got fired. It's like that
And
would be
Zach
fantastic.
is
yeah.
like on the
Leaving Las Vegas meets Space Ghost.
Yeah,
that'd
let's
be
do a
awesome.
live action. Somebody call George Lowe. Shoot it for like under $500,000.
I'm there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want that to happen.
That'd be
well,
awesome.
this has been great. We could go on and on.
Yeah.
yeah.
And we will again because there's more. I mean, this has gone for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And I feel like we
There's been a lot of
barely
unrealized-
touched the surface.
Yeah.
But we have touched the surface.
Yes.
John,
We've landed.
Yes,
We've landed.
Yes.
John, thank you
It's
so
like the
much.
moon landing. Are we there yet? Yes, but now we're filled with radiation.
We haven't even talked about the Logan's Run
No.
No,
attempted
right? No,
remakes.
there's
but,
so many. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many. The
Yeah.
Stars My Destination.
Sure.
That's another one.
Oh,
yeah.
Seems incredible artwork. I was
Demolished
like,
Man, right? Weren't they
That was
going to
be-
do that at
that
one
was gonna
point?
Be one
Wow.
time, yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, I think
there's a
so.
lot that I've heard of, and there's a lot that I've done research on. It's like
Yeah.
there's literally so many different like unmade films, and it's always amazing when like you're like, oh, did they work on that? And you're like, yeah, here's like this giant volume of work. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God,
Yeah.
you know?
The actual
Or some
stuff.
films you heard about, and they're like, no, nobody did anything. There's not even a script. Somebody
Right,
jotted
right.
down a weird idea and
Or
they
put,
threw it
or put like
away.
an ad in Variety back in the remember
Yeah.
like in the
Well,
80s,
yeah,
like you had
right,
those
right,
ads?
Yeah, David Cronenberg's Frankenstein. Nothing.
That's on my list.
There's
yeah.
nothing.
Right.
Absolutely
Yeah.
zero.
I mean,
That's
he
the
was-
only thing that exists is that ad.
That would have been a great
But he
marriage.
didn't even
That
want to
would have
do
been.
it. That's
Really?
what I mean.
Oh,
It's
they
like
just, somebody
yeah,
just
they were
did
like,
that.
yeah, what about I mentioned it to Cronenberg. He said yes. He said no, I didn't. Literally the fucking weekend. He said I never. It was like
Oh,
no.
that's funny. It's,
Yeah,
it's like in Variety, like
Put-
2-page ad.
They should have had that in the ad. David Cronenberg's Frankenstein.
Does not
I don't
support
want to
this.
do it.
Right. I never said yes, David Cronenberg. Yeah. He's doing it right under that.
Well, John,
This has already been canceled.
Right, then him again. I said I'm like, just like dot going. Please turn to page 58. Like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I want to say, contrary to what you might think, I loved your documentary. No,
That was
dude,
great,
dude,
yeah.
I loved.
I wasn't joking.
and
I've been in discussions with a lot of different people who liked it, or,
Just like-
or the idea of the thing. They were like, it would have been horrible, or it would have been great, but they liked the doc.
But
so
your documentary
appreciate
is
it.
fantastic. I want to, if listeners, if you haven't seen this film, you've got to see this. It's called
And where can we go?
The Death of Superman Lives. What happened?
Yeah, you can go to the website TDOSLWH, and that's just The Death of Superman Lives, what happened, the first letter of each of
Okay.
that. TDOSLWH.com. You can rent it, or you can just buy a digital copy, or you can get a Blu-ray. The Bluray has over 8 hours of extra
That's,
features.
You gotta get the Blu-ray.
So it's literally 10 and a half hours of stuff. It's a full film.
Do the
plus
Blu-ray.
8.5 hours. I mean, because literally, like, we were just making stuff, and it was like, as we got more of the people involved in making the film, we cut more of the people who were like, just like, it's still amazing interviews, but weren't involved in the film. And then it
Right.
became a thing where it's like, now there's too much of everything. So then we had to like create sub-chapters of deleted scenes. There's an hour-long featurette. There's just a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
So
don't cheat yourself. Get the
No.
Blu-ray.
So,
Wow.
and John, I hope that we could have you back another time where we can, because there are so many other films that,
sure.
that were going to be made that never did.
Yeah.
And who knows, when you come back, there could be
Sure.
a bunch
Yeah,
of new
definitely.
ones.
And John, do you have anything that, in addition to what we've already discussed, that you would like to plug that you got coming up?
Just go to my my Twitter. I'm just at Jon Schnepp on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me on Collider Video, which is a YouTube channel where I do.
Right.
I'm a panelist on Collider Movie Talk. That's a live show we do every day. I do
Cool.
it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 9 in the morning. And then you can find my own show that I host called Collider Heroes. And that's
Nice.
on Monday and Wednesday. I do it twice a week. It's like an hour-long show all about movies, television shows, and comic books based off of comic books. So
Wow.
we get super sweaty about, the Marvel, DC,
Cool.
Image, every single comic book that comes out. We talk about, pull lists for that week's comics, talk about movies and TV shows. So if you're into that kind of stuff, that's where we get really extra sweaty. And my Schnepp Zone
what a
channel,
nerd.
I'm super nerdy. I'm geeking it up. It's like, and definitely my Schnepp Zone YouTube channel is where I'll be premiering a lot of my own little short films and a bunch of like weird odds and ends. And I sometimes do my own reviews. Like I'll have my own Last Jedi review up there, like way after everyone's already done talking about it. Cause I'm like, look, man, I'm going to do like a post-mortem on this shit, son. I'm like a month from now, that's when I'm telling you my opinion. So.
You need time to percolate.
No, I already percolated. But it's like, I'll talk with you guys about it afterwards. But I was like, a lot of people are like, to give us your review, but I'm like, I got to record that and like,
Right.
I just don't want to be rush into it. Like my immediate feelings after 1 minute after seeing the film are, like I saw it a second time and I was like, I felt like a second time seeing it really was great.
Okay.
Because, any of these like giant films, especially a Star
have to
Wars
take it
film,
in, yeah.
you go with
Y-
a lot
yeah.
of your own ideas. Even if
Yeah.
you're like, I'm not going to buy into your Snoke theory, you end up going in, well, I'm sure this will happen. And it doesn't. And which I was really pleasantly surprised. So
Cool.
I've heard a lot of that. So yeah, I'm
have you
looking
guys
forward
all
to it.
seen it?
I've
No.
seen it,
Wow,
yeah.
okay. Then I won't talk about it.
No, but if you want to talk about Zardoz,
Let's get into that Borman shit. Dude, Excalibur is why I didn't go see King Arthur. Because I'm like, there's not another film that's going to beat Excalibur.
I
It's one of
loved
my
Excalibur.
all-time
Great. Excalibur still
favorite.
holds up really
It does.
well.
I watched it just this
Cool.
year.
It's great, yeah.
So amazing.
But the question was, were there ever plans for Zardoz Part 2?
There should have been.
There should have been.
Like, what would it be called, though? It has to be another book.
That's true.
Like what's Alice in
Alice in
Wonderland? Should be
Wonderland,
like
yeah.
Lice in Wonder. You're like, what the fuck is that? No, it's stupid.
you got to have the Zardoz. Yeah,
I know.
Zard does it again.
Or Czar doesn't. Yeah. Ooh.
That would be the review
Or you
of
could
Zard
say
does it again.
Zardoz Part 2.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, or
A little on the nose, but that's fine.
The other century, or
Right.
the other half, or something
Zardoz
like
the second level.
Right?
Or
how do you say
Zardoz
Zardoz backwards?
Sunset.
How about,
yeah.
how about Zardos?
What?
Zardos.
Oh.
Dose. 2, yeah.
Meet the Zardozes.
Zard ounce? Like just like split it up in a weird
All right.
way?
Yeah, this is
But it would
great.
just be like a CG Sean Connery, very shitty one, like made like in a very
Yeah.
basic program, like
Right.
something from 1998.
And this time they would add a mustache.
No, it would be
Right.
Tom.
All of, like,
no,
a full
it would-
mustache.
No, it'd be Tom Cruise, of course.
well, yeah,
Today.
but a CG Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Zardoz, head of the class.
Yes, Carrot Top in Zardoz. Just say it odd. Yeah, we're not making Zardoz, we're making Zardoz. Yeah, it's like fucking umlaut on there or something, you know?
I've already booked the meeting.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much, and man,
It's been a blast, man.
It's been a
pleasure nerding out with you guys. And you're like, and then another thing, everyone's all talking at the same time. I can't believe this. Yeah, it's perfect nerd conversation.
See, hear that? A perfect nerd conversation.
success.
Time for a listener shout out.
Shout out!
This comes from Jai of Queensland, Australia.
Jai!
He is,
Sexy.
he wrote a very nice iTunes review. I'm going to quickly read.
Okay,
Recently found this gem via Comedy Film Nerds.
look at that.
cool.
Started listening and absolutely loved it. Even though I wasn't a big horror movie fan, the guy's obvious enthusiasm and passion really wins you over.
Passion. Passion.
As with any good
Enthusiasm.
Insanity.
As with any good podcast, it's the relationship between the four hosts that keeps me coming back episode after episode after episode. And no, Larry, we don't all dream of unicorns.
Oh, see,
There,
that's
see?
ridiculous.
Thank
No, it's
you.
not
How does-
because we
no,
don't.
No,
It's
no,
true.
no. See, how does he know? Don't
Because
you,
I don't.
No,
Yeah, that's
no,
one.
And
No,
I
no,
don't.
no.
I've immediately
Matt, you
disproven your theory.
no. See, because that means you know all your dreams. I dream.
we don't
as a-
all. I am one of all.
No, no,
Done.
No,
Case
no.
closed.
No, you do dream of unicorns.
I do not.
You just don't remember it.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow.
Okay, wow.
That's,
That's deep.
Also, a shout out to Andrew Walcott from Ferryville, Wisconsin, who is the proud owner of a Monster Party cap.
Andrew, thanks,
Thank
buddy.
you. Thanks, Andrew. And
It's a high quality cap.
very high quality, and listeners can find the cap at our eBay store, which is Monster Party Store. Easy to remember. Let's also remind our listeners you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Monster Party TV. Our Twitter handle is Monster Party HQ. Instagram, also Monster Party HQ.
And I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors at Creature Features. Hey! Creature Features located at 2904 West Magnolia Boulevard in beautiful downtown Burbank. Taylor, Eric, and Matt, they have a fantastic store filled with everything for all your monster needs.
Yeah.
Toys, models, magazines, CDs, DVDs. There's artwork. You have to check out their website. It tells about all their art shows that they have every month. It's just such a fantastic place. You've got to check it out.
it's sexy.
It is sexy. And also they have an eBay store. You could check them out at C Features, and that shows a lot of the stuff that they have for sale on eBay. And also we want to give a special thanks to Time Tunnel Toys. Time Tunnel Toys, located at 1583 Meridian Avenue in beautiful San Jose, California. Joe and Sharon, their place is filled with vintage toys. I mean, the last time I went there, they had vintage Star Wars toys. They had also kitschy stuff. They had models and books and records. And also every 4 months, Joe and Sharon put on this toy show. It's an antique toy show in San Jose. It's called the San Jose Super Toy Comic Collectible Show. Hey. And if you go to their website, it has all their information, and it's such a great place. You check it out. It's a place filled with vintage toys.
I like the sound of this place.
Yeah, you have to check it out.
I will do that. Let's do a road trip.
Yeah.
Oh, that would
Right
be
now.
awesome.
Go.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Sean Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong!
Watch Films that never were. Oh, wait, we can't.
Damn it.
So, John, you know what? We'll take some candid photos as we're moving along here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we normally do is I introduce the show. I do kind of a little horror movie intro. We introduce ourselves. We talk about what the topic is going to be. Then we introduce you. And
And you have a nice introduction for him, right? A nice one.
no, I have a shitty one that I got it from a men's restroom.
Yes, it was pretty good. It had like a fake number, but
Yeah.
everything else I was like, everything else is correct.
Yeah, our next
The
guest
number is a
reminds
full
me
number.
of a badly drawn cock.
Yes,
Okay. Let's not go there.
shoddily drawn.
And
I mean, take a little time. Put some
There's not even a
passion in your work.
vein, no veins.
And just remember, buddy, just hug that microphone.
Yeah.
You have a great
Right now,
voice.
it's not. It
No,
hasn't
no, no.
really-
Yes.
Test. We all sound good, right?
Test,
We're all good
testing.
level wise.
I'll
Testing.
ride.
Check one,
I'll
check
ride the
two.
pots. So, yeah. All right, gang.
Wait.
Oh,
Is
the
there
music,
music
still
on?
music.
Yeah. We're real
tell
pros
Alexa to
here.
shut
Real pros. You know, you can tell we've been doing this for like 4.5 years. Over 100 episodes, John. Over 100 episodes.
Congratulations.
Imagine that in a podcast.
And I know what you're thinking. Oh, they've done 100 episodes.
We
It's like,
must know
oh,
sorcery.
they're sporadic. No, my friend, no. Every other week, religiously,
yes.
we have
That's
an
right.
episode every other week.
Yes,
I
we
think
On the nose.
consistency is incredibly important.
Yes.
I just did my 206th episode of Heroes today.
How do you like that?
Really?
Hey,
yeah.
Now, is that a weekly? Is it?
It is twice a week.
Twice a week.
That's how-
Wow.
Monday,
Wow.
Oh,
Monday,
twice
Monday
a week.
and Wednesday.
Whoa.
Wow.
Okay, so it's twice a week. How many people are involved?
Me and 2 other people.
Wow, I am
good.
impressed. I mean, we've got 4. I mean, you know,
No, but I'm just
we're
saying,
slacking.
Like I had to take great pride in numbering. Whenever when I'm like, I introduce. I was like, "Hey, what's up, sweaties? Welcome to episode 207." Like,
Yeah.
we pre-recorded our January one. All of
Yeah,
us
yeah.
are going to be out of town, so
Yeah.
we did 2 today. So
Wow.
That's what
That's
you're
awesome.
going to be. You're our
You-
January. You're going to start.
Yeah,
our
you
new
are
first
a
right.
new year.
year.
all right, so
Yeah.
should we pretend we're in 2018?
Yes.
There's hover cars.
All right.
Boy, I am
I
really
didn't know it was going to be
feeling.
like this. Yeah.
I'm really feeling the effects of the tax reform bill.
I know. It really helped me out this time. No, in fact, Trump isn't even going to sign it.
I thought he wanted to sign it before Christmas. Are you saying he wants to have some kind of like a
Leverage. He's like John Travolta from fucking Battlefield Earth.
you know,
Leverage! It's like, oh my God.
John,
Yeah.
I did not see that film.
Well, you're really missing out.
You are really missing out.
Leverage! Yeah.
No, it's
One
pretty.
of my
It's
favorite lines of any bad movie.
I saw that with Rick Overton, and Rick at one point in the movie turned to me and went, "Now there's a Plan 10." Sweet.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't think it could possibly happen.
No.
What Barry Pepper? That kind of ruined his career. He had like 2 movies like followed that were also stinkers.
Yeah.
You're like, I think, if you're an actor, you're like, you can't do 3 in a row that suck.
No, no,
You
you
don't
can't.
really recover.
Yeah,
You have
right,
to at least
right.
do 1.
Yeah.
And then I guess you could do 3, but then the 4th one has to be out.
I do still have mint in package. My Turl action figure.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it? Maybe it's
Yeah.
worth something now.
I mean, it's worth nothing.
No, it's worth nothing.
No, it's actually costing me because it's in the it's in the storage facility.
You know what? One of my favorite things that I sold at the old Shrine.
Yes,
auditorium,
yeah,
I love the Shrine, yeah.
I had a booth there, and I think it was 2000.
We did it together once.
Did we?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just we were selling old toys and
Yeah.
shit, and I had bought them just on impulse. I was at like a KB Toys.
Yeah. Sure.
They had all these Waterworld action figures
Oh.
for $1, and I was like,
my
I'll buy
God.
all of them. So
Yeah.
I literally bought like all of them.
Were, they,
Cases,
were they
okay.
were they next to the Dick Tracy
were-
action figures?
Now, see, the funny
Yeah,
thing is that Dick Tracy's
are-
actually are worth a few more bucks than Waterworld. Waterworld, I don't think
I
is.
do still have my Dennis Hopper.
I have no idea, but I did sell all of them. But my favorite thing was the way I sold them. I was like,
Yeah.
"That's right, you get your Kevin Costner action figure, the only action figure that drinks its own pee." And I kept saying that when people people would walk by and buy them. And I had 5 Kevin Costner, sold all of them. I was left with a Dennis fucking Hopper.
You're
I was
kidding.
Yeah, and then somebody finally bought that one too. But I was selling it for $5. I was like, totally made 500% profit.
Wow.
I think KB thing is really working out. Drink your own piss. I was like, what a great thing that you can't really say that about. Like, yes, but that character did that. In the movie.
Right.
I think you single-handedly saved the Waterworld show at Universal Studios.
You know, that was the other amazing thing is how long that lasted.
It's still going.
No.
I saw it.
It is.
I've seen it. It's
still going.
They got rid of it.
Oh,
I heard that too, and we went there, and it was there.
Wow.
Yes.
That's crazy.
But I was amazed that I saw it. Was like, it was like 5 years ago. I was like, Waterworld.
Dude, well, just think about it. The tank is there. It's like, what other water thing are you going to do?
Anything.
You know?
How about
Literally.
Jaws?
Jaws 3D, the
Jaws
the
3D.
attraction.
Have a Michael Caine guy just pretending.
Well, here's the
It's psychic. It's chasing us.
No. Here's the thing. If you think about it, if you are running that park, think to yourself, there are people that come from all over the world to see that. So it's like people go, oh, what's the Waterworld thing? Was that a movie some time ago?
Right.
What accent are you doing?
I'm doing, people from England, and so they come.
That's right, mate. I heard your accent.
There you go. And it's like,
Hello.
And it's like when you look at the
Rachi, right?
seats, when the seats are not being filled, that's when you got to panic. But I guess
maybe
people
people
still
are,
go.
Get those Waterworld people in there. Then all of a sudden,
it's more entertaining than the movie itself, actually.
That is true.
I gotta
That
say
is
though,
true,
I
yes.
did not hate Waterworld. I remember I was working in Atlanta. I was working at Cartoon Network, and I remember biking to go see Waterworld. And I was like, man, I know it's gonna suck.
I haven't
And I
seen it
saw
since
it,
it came
and
out.
I remember coming out, and I told all the people I was working with, but they were like, "What do you think of Waterworld?" My review was, "It didn't suck."
And see, if you remember, the big thing at the time was it cost so much money,
Right.
You know,
that was what everybody was
and so it's like
dwelling
any film that goes in, and there's a thing about, oh my god, it costs so much money. There's already this thing against it, you know.
Right,
like,
it better be worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to
exactly.
say, after watching The Postman, it made me appreciate Waterworld a little bit.
Postman.
The 2 Kevin Costner science fiction films, the one that was like just okay, and then the one that sucked, where he's like fighting. There's like a statue of him as a postman at the end.
Yeah,
and there's like a
right.
slow motion fight at the end.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. I was like,
Yeah.
well, how long is a slow motion fight going to be?
Yeah,
You know?
and you're delivering the mail
With your kid, he's delivering a
during the-
statue of you.
You know, it was so
during
weird.
after the apocalypse. I'm just waiting for you to die from the radiation sickness that's affected your brain.
I'll never forget sitting in the theater. My wife and I were going to see the movie, and they showed the preview for The Postman, and it just seemed so pretentious. And at the end of the trailer, it said The Postman. The whole audience laughed, and I thought, oh man,
That's rough.
That's I mean, the whole it was I forget what movie we were seeing. It was like a big budget.
Super Mario Brothers, probably.
No, but it was
Another
a big
favorite of Larry's.
movie. So this was like great publicity for this,
Sure.
for this ad
It's got to be
campaign.
rough.
But
Imagine
it
if
was
you were a
like,
producer on that film. You're like, honey, my film. Then people are laughing. You're like, can we leave now? I feel violently ill.
No.
And
If
then-
you're a producer,
and
the
then-
first
and
thing you're
then, like,
thinking,
the
John,
room-
no, the first thing you're thinking of is, okay, we have some things to change. We got to fix this. Okay, we got to make it a little.
I know,
more.
but it comes out next week. I know. I know. You know. Kill me now.
Just like in the room, then afterwards, that guy ran to the lobby, and his attractive friend came up to him and went, "No, don't you understand?
It's a comedy.
Yeah, it's a comedy.
It's supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Can't we all get together and get along?
like Showgirls. It's a comedy.
All right,
That still holds up.
You thought of Showgirls as a comedy?
Oh my God, it's one of the
Well,
funniest
it-
movies ever
yeah, it's
made.
hilarious.
No, but
if
you
you watch
see,
it
no, I
now.
don't think it was intended to be a comedy.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, it was not. But
Okay.
it is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very
Okay.
funny.
All right. This is all great, but we need to
Let's
get
start.
going
Let's
here.
start.
Tonight's
Okay, ready?
episode, The
So
Postman.
everyone quiet.
Okay.
Here we go.
Films that never were.
Yeah.
Films that never were. Okay.